Welcome back, everyone, to the Chatooine Show, the best and brightest podcast in the galaxy, filled with a red hive of scum and villainy. And we're the scum and villainy, and we're here every Wednesday nights talking about all things Star Wars. And next week we'll be talking about The Boys and then House of the Dragon, and finally not talk about The Acolyte. But I'm Star Wars only, and I'm joined with Lunga, Palpamemes, and the Goldman. If you guys are watching this live or listening to it later, leave us a like, help this channel out. If you're new here, subscribe to see us cover more Star Wars topics that, yet again, are not The Acolyte. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's finally over. We're moving on in life. But if you want to follow us on all the social medias, click the description and below. If you really enjoy this nonsense of a show, become a channel member. You remember that? I member channels. Or leave a super chat during the show and we'll answer any questions you have. Gentlemen, it's over. Last week was the Acolyte's finale. PTSD time, I think, has passed us. I've kind of recovered. It was nice not having an episode of the Acolyte last night. It was nice not being disappointed.
We've come a long way from episode 4 being a banger episode, haven't we?
Yeah, because after, some bangers and then some non-bangers, you just kind of get tired. You're like, wow, you had 2 bangers out of like 8 episodes, and those bangers weren't even like bangers with the capital B. It's just like a banger, like a banger moment. Where do we begin? Goldman, we haven't seen you. What was your overall opinion of the past? What did we miss you with? 3 episodes, I think. The finale.
I was here for the 5th episode, and that was the last time I was here.
Jesus Christ! All right, so half the fucking series. What'd you think about the last half of the damn series?
I would say the last half of the series was better than the first half. Was it better enough to make this a high quality series? No. Did the last half of the show prevent me from straight out hating the show? Yes. And we can dive more once we get to our round table. But in short, second half, I've seen worse.
When we, I think, started talking about the Acolyte, we talked about like our initial expectations from the show from back from 2020. We've had a lot of hindsight since then. Lunga started us out with this of like, when you heard the Acolyte, what did you think about it? At least initially, because this is, I feel like now that we've seen all the episodes, it's incredibly different from what any of us wanted.
Didn't we do this already? This feels like
we did this.
Well, first I want to mention a comment in the chat here. John Cabell Breckeridge says, not to mention the official Acolyte marketing used the word banger, which, yes, guys, I don't know if you saw a little tweet that we shared there, but they literally called it a banger. I mean,
wonder where they got that from.
3 out of 10.
I mean, what's going on here? Just taking our words. I don't know, bangers, not our word, but like Only says, we brought it back into the lexicon.
I think we did it with that, and even Member Berries, I feel like, has become a lot more popular since this show's inception. So we're making headway, I think, in the Star Wars community and in pop culture in general.
So what was your question? So what was my feelings? What were
your feelings before going into the show? Because when the trailers were coming out, you were a little bit more positive and everything like that. But was there ever this sense that it was going to be this bad?
Well, here's the thing. I was more positive because I saw the potential it had, and I still saw that potential while watching it, while being annoyed and like going, what is going on? The potential I saw in the lead up, the pre-marketing and the trailers was still there. They had, like I said, I think I used this nasty word. They had all the pieces. They were just putting it. It's like, you buy that Star Wars Lego set or the Millennium Falcon, and you decide to make fucking 4 weird looking speeders out of it instead of the Millennium Falcon. That's what they did. The pieces were all there. They could have made it really good. And I'm not saying like scrap all your ideas. No. Even if you kept Ocean May and you kept the witches, that's fine. But your execution of it was just so horrendous that I think that's the biggest frustration for me. It's not the, oh, here we go, Disney messing things up again. Oh, that's woke shit. Oh, they're doing it. It's not that. It's, dude, you had it. You could have really done something with this. With the stuff you gave us. stuff Disney made up. You could have done something with this, and you were just the Buffalo Bills in the fucking 90s. You just make a Super Bowl 4 times. Just get
Four times.
Yeah,
Like,
how
do
many
you
people
lose it
knew
4
that
times?
analogy? Here.
90s is not that old. I feel like that was known that they went to the Super Bowl. But anyways,
football fans, people who are fans of football will know that. They'll remember
Of course.
yeah.
that.
But
Okay, I
Palpatine,
gotta
do you
blow my
feel
nose
the
apparently.
same
I'll be
where
back.
it's like there was potential for the show and this is just wasted potential? Do you feel that way?
I mean, that absolutely. That's kind of the case for pretty much every Star Wars project that Disney's made. I've watched obviously them all, and I'm like, okay, I see there's like nuggets here that I'm like, oh, that's really cool, that's really interesting. I hope we do something with that, and then they either don't at all or it's executed just horrifically. It's weird because the show has more exciting moments than most of the other shows I really dislike on Disney Plus, like Book of Bob and all that. Yet I still find myself, I would rather rewatch the Book of Boba Fett, maybe because the story at the very, very least was somewhat stranded together in some apparent coherent way. Whereas with this show, it's really just snippets here and there of like, oh, that was cool. And I've said it pretty much every episode now where the show has style over substance. It has really cool looking things, but when you really think about it, there's not a whole lot of substance behind them. And that was really consistent throughout this whole show. So absolutely there were a lot of potential. I mean, this being in the High Republic era alone brings about so much potential, and I know we'll talk about that later. So absolutely.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover the High Republic aspect. Goldman, same question. Did you see this potential in the show, and do you feel like this was wasted potential after seeing all 8 episodes?
When we first spoke about the Acolyte, before even the first 2 episodes came out, the thing I said was my biggest concern about the show was not anything to do with the show itself, but the platform it was being streamed on. I said I think Disney Plus is going to hold back this show from reaching its fullest potential. And while Disney Plus is not the only reason why I think this show faltered in so many ways, for me it would be the biggest reason. The fact that they had these ideas, but when you look at the runtime of the show, not including credits or previously on moments, it's about 3.5 to 4 hours. So it's basically a long movie. But so they don't have the time to tell a proper television show with long character arcs and multiple characters. But it feels more like a movie split into 8 episodes. And the movie's long, and they try to focus on doing things that a normal TV show would do. And because of that, I think it failed. So did it have potential? Of course. Anything that's Star Wars related has potential. When was the last time you watched a project and said, I don't think this has any potential? Maybe Solo, and that's it. So yeah, it had potential. And I think in some respects, it did reach that potential. The show did take a lot of big swings, but I think we can all agree it missed more than it hit. So yes, it had potential. Of course, it didn't reach it. But I would disagree with Palpamemes and say that I think the show does have substance. It's just the substance isn't of high quality. At least the show is deep. It tried to say something. It just struggled a lot along the way.
Yeah, the execution, and I will agree with you. You know, on it does seem to be a Disney Plus issue, but a lot of the but because the other services aren't doing it. I mean, when you think of epic TV programming in the last decade or a little bit more, the standard bearers, the ones that set the standard are things like Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. You know, those are the kind of, and those are all shows that are 45 minutes to an hour long episodes, minimum 8 episodes a season, if not more. So we had, 8 to 13 hours of show per season for these shows. And even like some of the other stuff on other channel, House of Dragon obviously is new and contemporary, and they're still doing longer episodes. But I think some of even the stuff on Peacock or Paramount, they do longer episodes of things. I think Orville is almost 45 minutes, isn't it? I mean, it's just like, it's why they're cutting themselves and still spending $180 million on it. I mean, I
Yeah.
know House of Dragon spent way more money, but it's not that
Kid-
far ahead of them.
Can I give
When you think about the length of the episodes and how many episodes, they're getting more bang for their buck than Star Wars did.
Can I give a theory about why I think all the Star Wars Disney Plus shows has somewhat disappointed in terms of spectacle and scale? With all these other shows you mentioned, they don't often have to build sets. Even with something like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, they have the luxury of going to locations, going to castles that were really built and filming there. With Star Wars, there's no spaceships out there that we can just go rent out and film at. I really think a lot of the money on these shows is going to these sets. And even then, the sets still don't look that great because they're so expensive. But again, because you're spending so much time in the show, you need to build a lot of sets. And since there's a lot of episodes, you need to pay a lot of directors, a lot of different writers. And I think that's why we're just not going to be able to see the spectacle we hope to see from a live action Disney Plus show, Star Wars live action Disney Plus show.
I want to push back.
Do I got to pull out the
honestly.
Obadiah from Iron Man? Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Well, it's not only that. Like, I don't think this is really a Disney Plus issue. I mean, Andor had 12 episodes, and I think it was made for like $200 million. So they're probably spending a little less per episode than they did on The Acolyte. The Acolyte did $50 million in pre-production alone, a total of $180 million, apparently, sort of reports. So it seems like Andor used their money better than The Acolyte. House of the Dragon, I think, like, and the second season was like 160 million. The first season, they said it was 20 million per episode. So it seems like shows like House of the Dragon and The Boys, which we're talking about margin of error of like millions, like it's nothing. They're using their money better than what The Acolyte is doing. I think it's a creator's thing.
We know, like House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones. We know most of their money is spent on costuming, and their biggest expense is CGI for the dragons. Okay. That's their biggest expenses because they spend a lot of money on costume, wardrobe, makeup on Game of Thrones to make those wigs are spectacular.
Oh, and the cast. I mean, those cast members make really good money because they hire talented people.
Well, Game of Thrones, they didn't. It was a lot of newcomers, man. They were all people that weren't big names, and Game of Thrones has kind of kept it up. It was like Sean Bean was like the biggest name when Game of Thrones came out. You know what I mean? And he was only there for one season. So, everyone else is all newcomers. And even House of the Dragon, you have Matt Smith, but a lot of them are still, mid-tier actors as far not in skill, but in pay scale and where they're at in their careers. But even that, I mean, come on, who other than Carrie-Ann Moss? I mean, it's not like The Acolyte had like these huge fucking names. I mean, come on.
Soul would probably be the second biggest, but even he's a pretty up and coming actor. I want to also bring up I want to talk about time for these shows because I think clearly we all agree the allocation of resources was probably spread out in many, many weird ways with this show, obviously having an almost $200 million budget, and it looks the way it looks. I also wonder if it's simply because of the assembly line sort of idea that Disney Plus has everything on, that most of these projects are not given enough time to be produced properly. We talk about Andor, and it's probably relatively the same amount per episode, but do we know how long Andor was in production for? Was it longer? Did they have more time on Andor? Did Acolyte have more reshoots and all that? These are really, really big questions that, unfortunately, we usually don't get the answers to until many, many years later. But so it kind of leaves us just guessing.
No, but remembering history, Andor did have not the greatest production. You had the COVID and everything.
Yeah, they had a lot of issues.
They almost canceled it, and then Tony Gilroy came in again to save it and rewrite some stuff and everything. The Acolyte more or less seemed to have a smooth production because it started in 2019 when she pitched the series. They didn't really begin production until after COVID happened. The writer's strikes happened after everything was filmed and everything. I really think the issue with The Acolyte compared to some of these other shows is the creators, because all of us, we did not like Book of Boba Fett. But most of it was a stylistic choice of we didn't like Robert Rodriguez and his directing style and how he made things because it was kind of corny. However, everything did look well produced and well made. There's a couple times like in The Mandalorian
and the story,
where they go to,
even though we weren't happy with the story, like Goldman said, at least what Goldman said, or probably said it.
think
That was
Calvin
me.
was-
Consistency.
Even if we could say we didn't like the story, there was a story. There was a story that you could follow, like, with the exception of
Well,
inserting
you
Mando
went from
just
A
for-
to B to C to
just
D,
for
whereas
people
with
to
the
find.
Acolyte, it felt like we went,
Yeah.
and we know this because of the flashbacks and the way they did them was kind of horrific. We went from A to
And that's-
negative
and
3A
that's with-
to C to B to D.
And
It
that's
was a
with
mess.
Book of Bob doing a ton of flashbacks, which we all complained about. So I mean,
I don't want to.
you know.
I don't want to think about Book of Bob too much longer. I don't,
Well,
it makes me
I'm glad
mad.
you brought up the block format for the Acolyte, because that's what we noticed. I think 3 or 4 episodes in is that they're doing this in blocks where episodes tying together, but not in a chronological order. So the way they did the blocks was episodes 1 and 2. They did episodes 3 and 7, episodes 4 and 5, and episodes 6 and 8. Now that we've seen all 8 episodes, did you guys like the way they did that block format? Do you think that worked, or do you think that actually hindered the show? Longer, go ahead.
It hindered it, and this is why. We talked a lot about anthologies before. They made it like an anthology when it's one story, and at least that's the feel I got from it, right? And I know when you have different directors, you get a different feel. When we watched The Mandalorian, we had a different feel. When we watched something that was done by Fumiyawa, we got a different feel. When we got something by Bryce Dallas Howard and Deborah Chow, et cetera, et cetera. But it still all felt like it was in the same series. It felt like, okay, we got Director A, I'm telling this story. Let's fit it in. And Director B, okay, I'm going to tell this story. And then it's like a Frankenstein. Leslie Headland took all of it and and tried to piece it all together. And that's, I think, where the problem came in, is that there wasn't, and it lays. I said this at the beginning. I'll blame Leslie Headland if it's all at her feet. She had the directive, the creative control over this show. She knew where the story was supposed to be headed. And this happens a lot. You hear actors talk about this all the times. A lot of times, the shows that actors and crew, the cast and crew had the most fun on is usually a bad sign. Because if they're having fun, sometimes the story gets lost. To them, it looks great. And then once it's put all together and it's out there, it's like, oh, yeah, it's not as good as it felt when we were making it, And I don't know if Leslie and them are gaslighting themselves into believing that it was good, or they thought they put together a cohesive story. And again, you will get pushback from people, because people are going to say it was a cohesive story. You just don't get it. You're just not paying attention. Okay, there's a difference between a cohesive story and a loosely tied together story. Okay, this is a very loosely tied together story, and the strings are kind of knotted and twisted and wrapping around each other, where you pull on one and a knot forms in the middle. Okay, so yeah, they're tied together, but it's shoddily put together and horrifically constructed, and that's where the problem lies. And yeah, this they talk about the writing room, right? It was supposed to be a big deal. They were in cubicles. They were each in their own little fucking cubicles doing their own thing. And it doesn't feel like there was much discussion, other than we'll fix it in post. I mean, that's what it felt like to me. And yeah, that's it. That's all.
You done?
Yeah, we did have a super chat. Let's bring up the super chat, by the way.
Oh, I love
Zach
this one.
Briggs. I'm glad we've heard
we've
the
heard
last of "You're with me, I'm with you." Always one, but born is two.
Born is 2.
I know,
Are we not
I
going to
know
do the
issues with
power
that.
of many in this episode? We usually do
You
that
already
at the
did.
beginning.
You already did. Shut up.
Many.
God, yeah, the writing is
Oh,
horrendous, and I
yeah,
don't miss that aspect of. But Palpatine's, what do you think about the block format in this series?
I mean, I can reiterate what Lunga said, but I'm not going to do that because he said it way better than I possibly could have. But I also am curious if that's the reason why there's so many of these weird inconsistencies with simple things like character motivations and character, where their mindsets are at. Like with what's her name? May suddenly switching, and then she switch back, and then switches again. It's just, and then for instance, Basil or Boozle, whatever that little rabbit character name is, what he did on the ship, and he just decided to randomly fucking take out Soul's ship for literally zero reason, even though they're both going to the same planet, whatever. It's stuff like that where I'm like, this seems like, yeah, we have these writers, these block rooms or whatever, and individual writers are like, oh, this would be an interesting thing if that's happened. So they do it, but they don't have any of the information from the other episodes, so they just have to expect it to work. And I imagine there's a lot of changes because of that. But every so often, little things like May's switch or what Basil did, they slip in to the end product, and that becomes very, very clear.
And what about you, Goldman? What did you think about the blocks and how great they were tied together?
I'm not sure I have any comments on these blocks that you guys speak of. My large issues were with the way the flashbacks were presented. For one, having a quarter of your season be devoted to flashbacks, I just don't think is a good idea. What I will say the biggest issue is that because this season was released week by week, when you finish an episode like episode 2, there's clear direction, there's momentum, right? It's like, okay, episode 2 ends. We know May's going to kill the Wookiee Jedi, and the Jedi have to stop her. There's momentum, there's direction. But now we take a whole episode break from that to establish the backstory of these young girls. And then a week after that, then we continue the story. So it's like, okay, these episodes are short enough, but now we have to wait 2 weeks to continue the story. And the same thing could be said with episode 6. The episode ends, and there's clear direction. Sol and May are going to Brendok, and Osha is tapping into the dark side for a bit. Like, she puts on the helmet. Then we have to break and see the flashback again from the other perspective. And then week after that, then we continue the story literally from the same shots. Like, episode 8 ended with the helmet on Osha, or episode 6 ended with the helmet on Osha, and episode 8 began with the helmet on Osha. When your episodes are so short and you're going week by week, it is very easy to lose a viewer. I could totally see people watch the first 2 episodes, like, okay, let's see where it goes. Then they watch episode 3, which was whack, and they just didn't tune in for the rest of the series. If this show was released all at once, I think it might be more acceptable. Maybe, not by much. But especially since this show is week to week, I think having these flashbacks placed in episode 3 and episode 7 was really jarring and destroyed the pacing of the show. So I mean, you guys can mention blocks about episodes 1 and 2, 4 and 5.
Dude, that's literally what you just described. Everything you just described.
I was about to say, what you're saying.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
What we're talking about, the block format at the core,
like 6 and 8. It's because 6 and 8 were the same director and the same and the writer, and they told that story, but they were separated. And
them filming the block format is what ruined it, because episodes 1 and 2 did tie together so perfectly that you're like, okay, yeah, I'm curious where the story is going forward. Then episode 3 happens, and mentally watching it, you're like, no, you're going to do another flashback episode because you didn't even explain everything in this one. So now you have to do it again to make the mystery seem more appealing when it's really not. You do it again in 4 and 5, it continues, and then you do episode 6 that it changes things a little bit. It keeps the plot going, and you break it up again with episode 7. And you go back to episode 6 with episode 8. It feels like this was a 2-hour movie that they filmed and had to break it up into 4 episodes. Or they did break it up into 4 episodes.
You went to the bathroom and you came back. Wait, what the hell's going on now? What happened? What's going on?
It's so funny that you bring that up, because this is the show that feels the most like it was a movie, once a movie and then split up in the show, but it's the complete opposite. Whereas a lot of Disney Plus shows, like Kenobi, for instance, it was a movie and it got split up into shows. This wasn't that at all. This has been a show from the very, very beginning, according to Leslie Headland. And so it's just so funny how it feels, I would argue, the most like that instant, you know?
Well, and I think at the end of the day, the issue with this is Leslie Headland, because we talk about it being maybe the writers or the directors and the way they did things. But Lunga mentioned earlier how they did The Mandalorian, how you had multiple directors, but it still felt the same. And I think that's because
Favreau the whole way through.
He's on set the entire time. He's actively working with these people.
Right, because you had the guy at the helm that's guiding it all.
I don't know if Leslie was there for that, if she just checked out, if this was one of those things where she wrote the story and the script with the writers and just kind of handed it to the directors. Like,
I'm telling you, she's probably enamored with this idea of being a person who's bringing up this young talent, and she wants to give him the chances. And I think she gave him participation prizes. This is great. This is great. I'll make it work. And she just lost control instead of, I don't know, be the bitch. And I say that with all respect.
You know what?
We got to see behind
be
the
that
scenes
bitch.
stuff for it.
Well,
be that bitch.
thing.
Like, you know what? This isn't working. This is no good.
I was about to ask you guys, do y'all think we'll get some sort of behind the scenes? Because if I remember correctly, this is filmed during when COVID was
it's going to be a love fest. It's
we
gonna
know
be a
that they're
lot.
going to
No,
blame
yeah,
any
it's
sort of
gonna be like
issue
the
on,
Force
well,
Awakens
COVID made
documentary.
things difficult. Yeah, they're going to blame COVID for a lot of things.
They did behind the scenes shows for all the Mandalorians. They did
Kenobi.
Boba Fett. They did Obi-Wan. I don't think they did Andor, which is peculiar.
I don't think they
did.
did.
They do
They
one?
didn't do a lot. For
Ahsoka's more
Andor. They did
recent,
some
but
things.
is there any mention of an Ahsoka? Like, they have a special
Gallery
Disney
episode?
Plus.
They didn't have
gallery,
a behind the scenes, but they
Yeah.
had this whole interview back. They did a lot of these interviews with Hayden and Rosario recently, but I think that's because of the Emmy nominations were coming up, and they were petitioning to get the Emmy nods, and that's why they
Yeah,
were
well,
doing
and
it.
they knew that was going to be a bigger deal than something like this. So there was a lot going into the marketing for that. So you want to show the behind the scenes stuff. I think the issue with this show is going to be people. Lucasfilm, since they have been bought out by Disney, has been very protective of what they show from the behind the scenes stuff. It's why you're never going to get a making of The Force Awakens, making of The Last Jedi, like we got for the other Star Wars movies under Lucas. So I think with something like this, because of the bad perception already, they're going to be very particular about what they're going to show in any behind the scenes
Yeah,
stuff. That
unless
they
it's the
will show.
Mandalorian that everybody loved, so they can have this entire roundtable with
Yeah,
with,
absolutely.
with Dave
And I miss that
and
stuff.
and,
That stuff
and,
actually
and
makes
John
it more
and
enjoyable.
all the directors.
I-
you know,
Star Wars Only.
I
I
love
want you
how
to
they
put
do that.
respect on the Last Jedi documentary because they really dived into Mark Hamill's frustrations with the movie, and I think
There
that
you go.
documentary is the
Can
biggest
we,
reason
can we not do
why.
this?
I'm talking about the documentary, not the movie. I think that documentary and the backlash of Mark Hamill expressing his thoughts is probably the biggest reason why we're not going to get as thorough of documentaries as that one.
Uh, That's
No,
a
the
lot
people
to
they have
unpack. I don't know
now,
if I-
they're more
I don't know if
controllable.
I think that.
Mark's kind of a wild card, and they couldn't really control him. All the younger actors and stuff they have doing all the other shows.
I mean,
they'll
they did a
say
show with
exactly.
Obi-Wan.
Well,
and-
I don't know. We did have dude doubling down, tripling down on messing up Luke and Anakin in those interviews.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he kept going.
People are so harsh on those actors. I don't think. Yeah, people.
Well,
are too
the
harsh
first
on those
mistake
actors.
is fine, but he kept doubling down on it, and even Daphne King was like slapping him, like telling him to stop, and he kept going. like-
I expect nothing less from some of these actors, especially some that I've seen like typecasted and everything like that. But anywho, I guess we can talk about the good and bad
Jeez.
about the show, the Acolyte
Wow.
itself.
Sorry,
The
this
show
one's
was marketed as
crummy.
a story about the Sith, and we got Leslie's sister's issues. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Especially the
fan
name.
Can you
fiction.
say it a
as-
little? Can you read it a little bit clearer for the podcast so they understand because they can't see this?
Oh, sorry for those listening. This the Saber Smith says this show was marketed as a story about this. Oh, you took it down. Now it's
No, it went down on its
own.
own after a minute. I'll put it back up again.
God damn it!
Coming.
I appreciate you. I can't read. There we go. The show was marketed as a story about the Sith, and what we got was Leslie's sister issues. Big smiley face. When we look at this show, though, we do say that they're, Goldman said there's some substance and everything like that. May not be as strong as what we want, but there are some things that this show did right. I can tell you a few that on my end, I've said over the course of its runtime that there were some banger episodes. What about the show was a banger? What about this show what did the show do right? How about that? Just simple. What did this show do right, Longa? If anything at all. And don't say the end credits because that ending song ruined the end credits, so you can't use that one either.
No, I mean, Manny Jacinto as Chimere was actually really well. He was done pretty well. And not even talking about his his lack of connection that we know for sure, notwithstanding, his acting of the character was done well. I think his dialogue was actually written very well. And I think they put him in this Frankenstein of a story well. They did him well. Soul's entire arc from beginning to end. A few little missteps here and there, but other than that, it was 98% solid. And the acting from him was great. And his arc was an actual real arc. So it worked. The underpinnings of danger that they were putting in there was good, but they didn't build on it enough. So there was lots of things they did well. Just the initial story idea of, of these twin girls and the whole virgins and being one person. All that's really cool stuff. If you do something with it. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, yeah, there's and this is what I, when we've had arguments, when we're dumb enough to get on Twitter and we talk to people, it's like we're hating on the show, sure, because of all the bad things that we've seen in it, but it doesn't mean we're just hating the show. There's lots of good in there, just not enough good, like Goldman said, to make it a good series. That's the problem. And I really, really wish people could separate their love of something. Because I said this before, man, listen, I like a lot of trash. Okay? I could sit there and watch that, just like Ted, and I could watch fucking Flash Gordon, man. Okay? That thing is utter trash. Okay? It's a Jets quarterback. It's trash from beginning to end. But I love it. It's fun to watch. But I am in no way, shape, or form, if someone says, man, that movie's trash, going to sit here and try to argue with them on how they're wrong and they just didn't get it. Okay? It's if it's good for you, great. I'm not saying you can't enjoy it. And me talking about it, us talking about the multitude of glaring problems does not diminish your love of it. It doesn't diminish Goldman's love of The Last Jedi, no matter how much we trash it. Okay? It get some perspective is all I'm saying. And I don't understand why people can't separate that.
All right. About memes.
Yeah,
What'd you think the
ADHD.
show was
I know I went on a little bit of a tangent.
No,
but yeah,
hey, I relate. No, there was plenty of things where I was like, oh, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes genuinely. I didn't think they're phenomenal. It wasn't like, holy cow, this is amazing. I enjoyed them. I really like the actors. I like the actors in this. Osha May, whatever her actor's name. She's a little rough around the edges, but she was fine. I like the person Daphne King as Jackie, and the doofus who plays Yord, and obviously Solnum. The actors were good. I thought the choreography genuinely is the best choreography that we've seen since the prequel trilogy. Genuinely. I loved it. I loved the lightsaber fights. They were very, very fun from beginning to end. There was never a moment where I was like, okay, this is kind of bled now. I thought they did a really, really good job with that. I even like some of the music. I wouldn't say the music is like Mandalorian level, but I like some of the music. Soul's character arc, while it was consistent, I still find the foundation to be utterly broken in the sense that it actually didn't do anything wrong from the get-go. And so that's why, while I understand that, yeah, it was good in terms of a consistency, it just, the foundation of it was so messy that I couldn't get behind it. But his acting was super captivating, especially when Osha is force choking him and stuff. So it's like Lunga said, I'm not going to sit here and say this thing's a 0 out of 10, because there are things where it's like, that was nice, that was enjoyable. It was just, overall, it was a complete mess. I mean, other than that, I really don't have much else to say in terms of good.
All right, Goldman, what did you think was good about this series? I feel like you're going to be the nicest out of everybody.
Right off the bat, the lightsaber action, I think, is the best in the franchise. I would much rather watch the fight from the 5th episode of the series than anything in the prequels. Hey, that's just me. This is a debate for another time. So the action was good. I would say the second half of the series, episodes 5, 6, and 8, specifically, I thought they had the potential to be pretty good episodes. I think they were good episodes, but not perfect, good. But the issue was the moments those episodes were paying off just weren't properly set up in the first 4 episodes. So it's like, if you can envision a better first half of the season, then I think the second half of the season, with a few adjustments, is pretty all right. But yeah, I would say the second half of the season, minus the 7th episode, was fairly strong. Lunga touched on this. I thought, I don't know the name of the actor, but I loved the actor's performance of Chimere. Just rewatching this series, how well he's able to differentiate the Chimere we saw in the beginning and the Sith Lord we saw in the end, I thought it was a masterful acting performance. Just how well he's able to make these two characters feel so different. The actor for Soul, I thought, did a fairly good job. And I would say maybe my biggest positive, and this is maybe just something I personally respect more about stories, is that it did take a lot of risks. There is substance there. Leslie Headland did have something to say with the show. She just stumbled a lot. And I would always prefer a story like this, where the main writer, the director, whatever, is trying to say something and they fail. I'd prefer that over something like, say, the Book of Boba Fett, where it's just, here's action. There's no story here. Oh, we're tying into the Mandalorian. Here's some nostalgia. So maybe the biggest positive I can say is that I feel like they really did try to tell a compelling story here, and they just struggled. So yeah, those would be my main positives. The action,
It's kind of
a good portion of the action, the second half of the season for the most part, a good portion of the acting, and that the director or the main writer tried.
it's kind of what we've been telling you about Ryan Johnson this entire time.
Except I thought, yes, Ryan Johnson did try, but I thought he succeeded. You guys don't. Debate for another time.
Well, that's
Yeah, at
interesting
least
you
he
bring
tried.
up. I just want to respond before you go. Only like you bring up instead of Book of Boba Fett, which you felt like didn't try anything at all. I honestly kind of feel like both tried to tell a compelling story and both failed pretty abruptly.
I disagree.
Like Book of Boba Fett tried to tell a story about this guy who, well, once again is not his old self. He's getting older and he has to rise above. I can't even really remember. I just remember there was some story there that they tried to do. Whereas the Acolyte, I would say,
Want to be
I would say the same thing about the
gentler
Acolyte.
crime boss.
Yeah. I like some of the ideas that Headland had of the Jedi are corrupted, blah blah blah. But in reality and execution, it's like,
Yeah,
is
that's
there
what
really
we're
much
all
story
saying.
there?
Right?
Well,
Yeah,
Book of Boba Fett was
yeah.
definitely a lot less riskier, I think, than the Acolyte
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
because it's a legacy character. That was a beloved legacy character.
Was. Well,
even
and
though
they're
he only had
tying
5 minutes
into
of
the
screen
rest
time.
of the Mandoverse and everything, so they
Well,
do
and that's-
try to put their best foot forward of consistency.
While we're on-
with it.
Like you brought up like nostalgia here and there, I would argue the Acolyte tried to throw that in last minute on the final episode. They tried to throw in Darth Plagueis, which did nothing for the story or the characters. They threw in Yoda. It's not the same level. It's not nearly close to the same level, but it's it's very apparent that they're doing these things because I would assume they know that this story cannot stand on its own 2 feet. So they throw a weird looking Darth Plagueis in the
that's
mix.
bullshit.
That's not why. No, that's not why. Leslie Headland, again, I still say to people like she's a fake fan. She's not a fake fan. She's just a prequel fan, unfortunately. That's the problem. Okay, it's not that she's a fake fan. She's just a prequel fan. She's the fans that we see on Twitter. They're like, oh my god, what these people? That's what she is. Not she loves Star Wars. She just loves the wrong shit about Star Wars. That's the problem. Okay, from my point of view, obviously there's no wrong subjectively, but so she didn't throw it in because she thought she probably really loves Plagueis. And she wanted it to be part of her story, and she couldn't find a way to put it in without it overshadowing the others. So I didn't say
I can understand that
I
point.
didn't say there was no way to do it without overshadowing. I'm saying
Well, I was about to
she
say-
couldn't find
yeah.
a way.
I mean,
You know what I would have liked, just real quick, while we're on Plagueis, I would have actually really, really liked, and this wouldn't take much time at all. It would kind of control the story a little bit more on why he's there. Again, he just pops up and that's it. I get it. She's a fan, and that's great. But it would have been really interesting if we find out that, when Chimera puts his helmet on, Plagueis has some form of control over him. So Plagueis is kind of doing some remote viewing through him. So that's
I
why
would
when
hate that.
Osha puts the helmet on, she just has a seizure.
I-
That'd be an interesting way to kind of tie
we
it all
don't even
together.
know.
Talking
But that's the thing,
about-
we don't even know. We don't know if he is.
That's why it's
his
frustrating.
apprentice, or
That's why
he's
it's
just
frustrating.
a dark side user who wants to bring back the Sith and he doesn't even know that Plagueis exists. We don't know yet. That's
Why it's so
problem.
frustrating. Yeah. Okay, so yeah.
So
we
you were
agree.
genuinely frustrated they showed Plagueis for 8 seconds?
Yeah, because when the second
Yeah.
I happened, and I even think I texted Star Wars Only. No, he told me not to do this because I don't know if he saw it yet. I literally said in my head,
I wanted your
straight up,
full naked reaction.
straight up. I said, "Here's what's gonna happen. We're never gonna see this guy again for the rest of the series, and it's simply gonna be a cameo and nothing more." And that's exactly what happened, and that was frustrating. It did nothing for the story. It gave us no answers on why he's there,
Okay,
why he's acting like what do you?
Why-
the it
It also,
character.
felt, it
One,
also
this
felt
is-
like a
this
big
is-
lie.
this
We're
is a
going to
show-
see a Sith. Well, we saw a Sith.
Well, that's
Which,
another thing
again,
too. Is we were told that
my prediction unfortunately came through because I said at the very beginning we're going to see him for like 5 seconds and that's it. And
I
that's what it is.
hated that you're right, but go ahead, Goldman.
You guys are so harsh. This show, by far, of anything except for maybe Andor, had the least amount of nostalgia. of a 4-hour show, we had 15 seconds of nostalgia, and one was a mid-credit scene of Yoda.
Hold on,
I
hold
think
on,
it
hold
is
on, hold on.
ridiculous.
I'm
that
not
seeing
complaining.
Plagueis
Hold
for
on,
eight-
hold on,
Let me
hold on,
finish.
hold on.
Thank you. Let me finish. I
All
think
right.
it is ridiculous that showing Plagueis for 8 seconds. Mind you, this is a show that's designed to have multiple seasons. To show Plagueis for 8 seconds, and that's an issue. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Wait,
my
no,
problem
but
is
there's
not
no
the fact that they
context
put
to
in
it, though.
nostalgia. The problem is they
not
didn't weave it
nostalgia.
into the story properly.
Right.
Oh, so what? It's a
not the
small moment
nostalgia.
where someone's looking
And,
through
and,
a
and
window.
don't give me the bullshit that it was designed for multiple seasons. Because number one, they said
is.
over and over again, we don't know.
No,
Hold on.
she said multiple times
We
she
don't
doesn't know
know.
she's getting a second season.
Right.
Leslie
now, here's the
Headland
thing.
in an interview
The
said she
hopes-
wanted 3 seasons.
Right.
Wanting
The
and having
hopes-
it are different.
Hold on.
Yes.
The hopes of it, sure. George wanted to make a bunch of movies, but he didn't know if he was going to get past Star Wars. So he made Star Wars end as a movie, to where if there's no more movies, at least that movie was self-contained in its
Yes.
story. Okay? Adding Plagueis, not knowing if you're going to have more seasons, is not adding to the story, is not making it self-contained. It sparks questions that may never be answered. So it's not the nostalgia part of it. It's you wasted him for nothing.
Wasted him. They showed him for 8
It
seconds.
was a waste.
Was
He
it?
came out like
that's a
fucking
waste. I'm
Pennywise,
sorry.
dude.
Okay,
They
you
gave
looked
no
over-
context.
Came
to
down
it.
in a bubble, bro.
Of a-
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Am I wrong?
I disagree with you. I mean, in terms of just because she is not guaranteed more seasons, I would still take the risk and write my show and design it for more seasons. If I
Here's
had
my
that
problem
story
with
in
that.
mind.
Here-
Take the risk
Here's
and
my-
make
hold
them
on,
at
hold on,
least
guys, hold on.
integral.
That's my problem with it.
doesn't
There
need to be
really
integral.
is no risk with it. There's no risk in bringing Plagueis in there. The problem is it's not integrated in the story at all. We know nothing. That's a problem when bringing.
It's not a problem.
It is a problem because now, let's say they don't
I
continue
wouldn't
the
say-
story. It's like, okay, what's going on here then with Kymir
No, I
and Osha
would-
and May? It doesn't wrap it up in a satisfying way. We don't see Plagueis at all, and him being introduced makes the questions even worse that they don't answer. Of okay, does he like literally know Kymir, or is he just stalking him? Is Kymir Sith, or is he a Knight of Ren? Did he create May and Osha? Does he know about the Virgins of the Force? Or is Tenebrous alive?
And why is that? Why are these questions bad things? Why were you not allowed to have questions? I don't mind having questions. The story's
No,
not
here's
over.
I'll tell
You have
you
a
why.
million
I'll
questions on
tell you.
top
No,
of
no,
it.
no. I'll tell you why. God damn it.
Okay.
All right. Here's why. Because the show itself posed questions that were important to the plot of the story with the existing characters.
Okay.
What's going to happen with May? Her memories erased. Kymir and Osha are going off. What's this relationship going to be like?
Mhm.
How is it going to work out with them? Soul went down. Vanestra now is doing this whole cover up, and she's taking May to go find Kymir, her student. Those are the questions that are meant to be hanging for a possible season 2, that are integral. That is taking this plot that wrapped up with Soul's arc and you know all the events that happen on the it starts with a B,
Brendok?
fucking Osha's planet.
Brendok.
They tied up that, okay, that at least that story, okay, and now these questions that takes these current characters and extenuating out, that is what the threads are. Adding Plagueis was stupid because you could have still had all those questions and it didn't do it unless you tied him into it. As of right now, he is not tied into it at all, except as another Darkseid user. That is the only tie there is.
How many Sith are there usually? 2.
Depends.
What's the issue with
'Cause
showing
according to
the
Dave
second
Filoni,
Sith?
there could be 30 of them.
Okay, but the issue with showing the second Sith is that you only know it's Plagueis if you've actually, been not even just a general Star Wars fan. You have to be a pretty decent into Star Wars fan to know who this guy is because it has no context to him at all.
Because you
has
might know the
context
name,
in the
but
larger
you don't know
story.
the look because you haven't seen art or read books or comic books or whatever. You just know the name. So just seeing a moon, you don't a
So it doesn't
general
change the story.
fan doesn't know who that is Plagueis.
Okay.
It's also one of those things of like when you see it, does it really make you go? Because I feel like the intention is to go, oh, I want a season 2 now to see how Plagueis is
Yes.
tied into the story. But you're doing that because of Plagueis, because you remember Plagueis from what's already been established, not because of the show
I
doesn't
remember.
do anything on its own. This show doesn't
Oh,
establish anything on its own.
Look
to
at it
actually
from a
make you go, I want
general
a season 2.
audience, dude. Look at it from a general audience or just a fan who's watched the movies. That's it. Okay,
Mhm.
That's it. Okay, they know the name Plagueis. Okay, but they don't know what he looks like. They don't know all this other bullshit. They just know that line from the fucking prequels. Okay, and you see this guy, and maybe someone say, "Oh, what's this?" But if you're watching it as a general fan, you're confused. You're like, what does this guy have anything to do with him? What is going on here?
I would
And it doesn't
agree
tell
with
you
your
anything.
point if Plagueis had this big
That's not a
conversation and
good
he was there for
question.
2 minutes. He was in the show for like 8 seconds. I just fundamentally do
To
not
what
mind a
end?
tease for something that is as short as that and something that just doesn't affect the rest of the stories at all.
No, wait, hang on. It doesn't affect the story. Plagueis is one of the most influential parts of the
It
entire
doesn't affect
story.
the story of season 1.
Okay, then why is it in there?
Because it's a tease. You're allowed to have a small tease for something that's 8 seconds long.
I just
I
told
have- I
you
have-
all the teases they gave for all
Okay,
the
you can
other
have
integral
multiple
characters.
teases. It's like a
Okay,
big
but
And
this
there
is
were
more of a
multiple
tease
ones.
Because this is a tease based off
Question.
of a fucking member berry. It's
Question.
literally just a member berry.
Have we all
They
seen
had
the first Iron Man movie?
Yoda for Christ's sakes at the end.
Yeah,
Have we ever
what-
seen?
what'd you
Have
say,
we all
Golden?
seen the first Iron Man movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we remember
Yes,
the
he
scene
built it in a
where
cave with a
Rhodey-
box of scraps.
Yes, where Rhodey looks at the Mark I version of the Iron Man suit, the silver one, and he's like, maybe another time.
Yeah, in the
Oh,
credits.
Is
Hold
that a bad
on.
tease? Is that a bad tease? Is that a
Yes,
waste
I'll
of
tell
time?
you why.
That was
Because
bad?
Rhodey was in the entire fucking movie. He wasn't an 8-second fucking cameo.
But
Are
why?
you
why
really
does him
comparing
why
apples
is
and
him-
oranges right
yeah,
now?
Why is him making a comment about the suit that he doesn't wear in the movie matter?
Because
that doesn't affect
Rhodey,
the
the
story.
character, is in the fucking movie. He's
So,
in a
I'm not
good
talking-
chunk of
okay,
the
yes,
movie.
but we're
He's
talking
not
about
a
his
cameo.
relationship to an Iron Man
It
suit.
wasn't-
No,
here,
a
it wasn't
better
like-
analogy for you would be Nick Fury showing up and asking Tony to join
That's
the
a post-credit scene, a little different, but sure.
No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like Rhodey
can I-
wasn't in the movie, and he like popped out while Tony was doing stuff. Oh, hey, what's Rhodey? What's up? That's a cool looking suit, and then you ever see him again. That's the same kind of thing what just
disagree.
happened.
Can I jump in here?
Because
I'll jump
Plagueis didn't
in
do
here real
anything.
quick.
He just stood there. That's
I-
the tease.
I do understand Goldman's point, and there's truth to what he's saying. I think for me, and I can only speak for myself from a subjective level, what was so frustrating for me is, well, one, it felt like complete blue balls, but two, it was we were told from the get-go that this is about the Sith. You're gonna learn about the rule of two, as many interviews and stuff she said. So we did have these, expectations from the get-go that were not fulfilled, and until the very, very final episode, we actually get some Sith. We don't even know if Chimere's a Sith, and that's a problem. We don't even know who he is. And so when you get Plagueis, I was like, holy cow. What you could have done is you could actually connect it to where, like, okay, is Plagueis his master? Is Plagueis with Tenebris, and they see this goofball cosplayer Sith guy, and they're like, who the fuck is this guy? There could be things like that, and there's elements there that they could have done, but that was so frustrating with me is she just decided not to do it at all, or wasn't allowed to because Lucasfilm didn't know where their canon was going to sit with Plagueis.
Well,
I
But
think
Plagueis to
we're
me
I think
feels
we're
unsatisfying.
overthinking it. Go ahead, finish your thought.
We did get on a big tangent there.
I was going to say it just feels unsatisfying because it makes the show more complex when it's already, I guess you could say, complex enough. Of like, I don't really know what's going on anyways, and now I definitely have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Well,
And the
that's been a big
constant-
problem.
But the constant message has been, we'll just wait and figure it. So now I have to wait until season 2 to see how Plagueis is
Question,
involved. and
We
maybe I
kept
can
getting
get
told,
into it.
wait till next
What?
episode, wait till the end of the season, wait
I
till the
know,
end of the
that's what-
series. Wait
that's
till,
what I'm saying.
but we could be overthinking it, okay? Because one thing we talked about from the beginning is everything was on the nose, right? We knew Chimere was the guy from the beginning. It was like, okay, this is apparent, okay? A lot of people could see the switch that was going to happen, that O'Shea was going to turn. So there was a lot of things that were there. A lot of people knew Soul obviously did something that he wasn't supposed to. So a lot of the things that were supposed to be like, oh, you'll see it, you'll see the story unfold. We like, oh, this is obvious. We could tell. You don't need a degree in film study to get it. Okay. So maybe the implication here is it's on the nose. He is a Sith, and he is Plagueis' apprentice, and it's the whole rule of two thing. He's trying to find an apprentice to
Probably
so he
right.
can overthrow his master. That could be the thing. But here's the fucking problem. Whereas everything has been on the nose, his story, they make purposely vague, and they keep changing little parts of it to make you at the questions we're asking. It's like, why are you making everything else on the nose so we get it? And then this one thing that's so huge and important with this character, you muddy the waters with it to have
The
us say,
stuff we
well,
were
is this it?
actually interested in the show in the first place, which is the dark side characters. I was interested in seeing the Sith and the training and all that stuff.
If you wanted
And
it to be
now,
about the Sith
if-
and want it understood, you can't muddy the waters with him.
Well, now the thing is going to be, everything that I wanted from season 1, they're gonna give me in season 2, or promise to give me. Oh, you wanted to see a Sith apprentice being trained, going to Sith temples and studying
mean,
about Sith
she's-
lore and history.
wait.
Now we'll do that. Go ahead, ask your question.
What do you're saying? You're certain promises that were made you did not feel like were fulfilled. Can you just repeat what these promises were? I just want to make sure so I can either rebuttal or not.
That
I
this
just wanna
is
make sure
a Sith-centric story.
I would argue it is. This whole
We do not know who is the Sith.
Oh,
So
this
8
whole
No, I'm sorry.
season.
I'm sorry, we
This
don't.
whole season was about how someone becomes an acolyte, how someone potentially becomes a Sith, how someone becomes a potential Sith apprentice. That's the whole plot of the show.
No,
They
you're going under
had
the
to do
assumption
these
that Chimera
trials.
is a Sith.
No,
The
he
guy
said,
literally
okay.
muddied it by saying, "Oh, you would call us a Sith." What the fuck? He doesn't.
Okay,
He can't
and
even
then
he's
he
like.
played the
not
Knights of Ren
specifically a
music.
Sith Lord. I'm
Yeah, and then they
assuming
played
he's
the
in
Knights
league
of Ren
with the
music.
Sith. Okay.
No,
They-
No,
they-
you don't get
they-
to say
they-
okay
they-
like
that
that. You know
like it's
that's
nothing.
bullshit. You
No,
know
hold on,
that
hold on,
it
hold on,
is
hold on, hold on.
And she
hold on, hold on.
specifically said it teases that there's more to it than we do. You know, like they don't address it.
I'm sorry. To me, Chimera may not be one of the people in the rule of 2, but he's associated with the Sith, and that's all that matters to me.
That's why bringing Plagueis in makes this even more complicated when you don't
Why?
give actual answer. Because now we're questioning: is he his apprentice, or is he a separate branch from what would be his
Would
typical
these
rule of
questions
2?
not exist if Plagueis wasn't shown?
No,
those
there's even
questions
more
would have all
questions
been
now where
good
it's worse.
questions. Those questions would all been good questions if all the stuff you have said you didn't like about this series so far, Goldman, were done better. That's the problem.
We can agree on that.
They're adding them in here with this horrible structure you already gave us, added questions that will now become unnecessary questions
I don't think
to an already confusing plot.
It added very menial questions. Instead of who is Chimera's master, what is his relationship to another Sith, it's now what is his relationship to Plagueis? Is Plagueis his master? It's like very small questions.
No, these are pretty interesting questions that have an impact on the overarching story.
Yeah,
of
and
not
they
only the
could be
show, but
answered
the
in
Skywalker
the next
saga.
season.
But that's awful. They could be answered. What do you mean?
What's
they could be
frustrating?
answered?
I want to answer to that. I want to answer that.
They
I-
would
hold
be
on.
answered if season 2 is going to happen.
And
No,
that's
that's
the
awful.
problem, right? Hold
That's
on,
not a
hold on,
problem.
hold on. That's the problem. Lucasfilm has a history of doing this. Look at Solo, a Star Wars story where they're throwing freaking Darth
Okay,
Maul
what's the other
in there.
example?
This show,
you can
this
look at me and
literal
look
So
at
show.
second instance.
No. Hang on.
Oh, I'm sure there's many
Guys,
others, but hold on. Let me
guys,
finish my
wait,
statement.
Sorry.
Wait for it.
We're talking about
finish my
me
statement.
and
We're
Hunga
gonna-
have been talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about the Grisk and the Thrawn and everything like that with the Thrawn ascendancy. One of the main reasons I was excited for Ahsoka is because they were going to the unknown regions and doing all this stuff. And then guess what? There's nothing about the Grisk. So
Well,
yes,
that's-
books are different and everything like that, but that's still something that we were looking forward to. That they've been and they've yet to touch on it even remotely. They've done this multiple times with Star Wars, with slight little hints of things, and they don't follow up
doesn't
with it, and
compare.
it makes it
Can
interesting.
I want to just. I'm just continue my thread, please. My thread, the power of many thread, if I can do that.
Pull on that thread.
we
with your
now-
power of many.
Nanny.
We now, in a recent interview, have Leslie Headland asked about season 2, and she literally says, "Well, if enough fans call for it, then maybe it can happen." And that's what's so frustrating is Lucasfilm, once again, as I've been saying for a whole fucking year now, still do not have a plan. They'll just throw
That has
shit.
nothing to do with it.
That's
to
not
see where it
true.
lands.
That has nothing to do with it.
Leslie
That
Headland
was-
has
that
a
was
plan
just
for
to
the
get
show. It's not
engagement.
her fault if the show doesn't get greenlit for
No,
second season.
that's the
or not.
It
problem.
actually is because
You-
I mean, it
that's
is
the
in terms of her
problem.
telling the
Literally
story.
her fault.
Okay,
Hold on,
yes.
Hold on. That's the problem. You have a story that's not wrapped up, and it might have to be wrapped up in another season. That's probably not going to happen. That's not a satisfying story for me.
So question.
If Disney... Go ahead.
So, for every time in the future someone makes a show, if they're not guaranteed a future season, they should just end it, or they should.
No, you should,
They should
write
resolve
a story
it.
where it wraps itself up and gives us the answers. We
If-
need to actually understand what the story is and what the
If
characters
I
are.
if I go
Let
to
me
a
give you an
studio and I say
example.
I have a plan for a show that's 4 seasons, but they say okay, we're gonna give you 2, should
I get
I
what you're
just
saying.
conclude the
Let me-
story at season 2
let-
and then hope
Let me be
that
clear.
season 3 and 4
I'm not
happen?
blaming Leslie. They blame Leslie Headland. I'm not blaming Leslie Headland. I'm blaming this on Lucasfilm because this is a consistent Lucasfilm problem. I think Leslie absolutely has ideas and wishes for season 2 and stuff, and they're hoping she can get it. But it's still irresponsible of Lucasfilm to allow the story to be such an open thread with so many questions about pretty much everything that's going on. And then no guarantee of a season 2. It'd be like if The Mandalorian ended
That's
where
just
it
how the
ended with
industry
season
works.
1.
If just give me an
It's still
example.
irresponsible.
this is how it would have been done much better. Okay, the best question would be is who is his master? Not okay. Here's Plagueis. Is that his master? If you just did a simple scene with him alone, okay, at the end he takes Osha wherever he's taking her, and he's doing something on his own, and you just hear a disembodied voice, and you see a look of fear on his face. He knows his master, and by the voice we wouldn't know who it is, right? Because we can't assume, oh, he sounds like the one in the audiobooks. That doesn't tell us nothing. So okay, he has a master. We know he's a Sith. Okay, who's this master? Tenebris. Is it Plagueis? That is more compelling, and that even if the thing ends after season 1, while it sucks we don't find it out, it doesn't hurt the season. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
I don't know. I don't know any better way to explain it. Am I making sense, guys?
Well, to me, it's like Ahsoka. Ahsoka season 1 ends with this thing where Balin is looking out, and you're like, holy shit, this has to do with the Mortis gods. Then we find out that even Dave Filoni doesn't have a guarantee of a second season at the end of season 1. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, who the fuck do you think you are to introduce something this big and not have a promise to follow up on it? Like, that's extremely...
It took him how long to do season 7 of the Clone Wars? He doesn't care. He'll wait a decade.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not blaming Leslie Headland necessarily for this. I thought Plagueis' his little pop-up cameo is just frustrating from a fan level, but I don't blame her because at the end of the day, she wants to tell a story. I put all the blame on Lucasfilm if they do not allow an actual story and an actual plan to persist. Yeah, season 1 of The Acolyte was definitely it bombed in terms of ratings, and we are even getting some new reports from Forbes. I think I sent you guys the article, the complete drop off in views, which is a very interesting read.
It's going to get a season 2. It will because and here's the thing. She said when she says, "Oh, if the fans fuck that." When has Lucasfilm ever listened to the fucking fans? Okay, they don't. So
that's true. Good point.
Shut the fuck up with that shit.
Then why is she asking for the fans?
I'm getting there. Have we not seen the recent overexuberance that Lucasfilm and the official Star Wars Twitter have been following fans that love all the Disney Star Wars stuff? Okay, we see hashtags being made. They're trying to get engagement. It's not that we need this for season 2. It's we're making season 2. Let's point to something to justify it.
So you think it's like a social media trend?
It's engagement. Everything is about engagement.
It's pointing to something to
the 30
to
influencers
say,
that are saying renew the Acolyte. That's gonna do
that.
I agree with you.
If it brings out a bunch of tweens and a bunch of 20-year-olds that cosplay it and are going to be cosplaying Chimere and May all over the place, yeah.
Hey, that Hasbro Black Series looks great.
It'll start. Again, it's not about the toy sales anymore. You're thinking how we used to think years ago.
I'm just making reference to your cosplay comment. I'm saying Chimere.
If you have dudes and girls, because you know how the cosplay stuff is, right? It's gender bent all the time. If you have all these different people cosplaying Chimere and they're getting millions of views on TikTok, it's viral. You understand? That's all that matters now. Everything is based on virality and social media and engagement in social media. That's how they focus group on this stuff.
I would say with the different shows, they have a different point that they can look at and say, this is why this gets another season. Mandalorian, praised everywhere. Critics, online, fans, everything. Book of Boba Fett, didn't really have anything to point to. The online fandom, didn't love it. Casual people, didn't love it. Ratings, not great. Critically acclaimed, no. You look at Andor, didn't have the best viewership. Didn't have the most online love and praise. But as time went on, the viewership was going up. People started doing the word of mouth thing where it grew, where Lucasfilm can point at and look at it and say, look at the amount of Emmys we were nominated for. Look how good this is now reviewed. You got that even with Ahsoka, where a lot of Rebels fans and prequel fans are like, oh, I love this. So the online stuff was great, even though the viewership wasn't that good.
Yeah, but
so they at least have something to point to.
They got enough decent critic reviews for it, though, man. They did, unfortunately.
Give the show some time. 80%. I mean, the show ended a week ago. We don't know what its legs are going to be. And you guys are turning me into an Acolyte defender, and it's making me upset. I mean, let's give the show some time. I don't think the show is good, but maybe it does catch up people.
That it's going to get a season 2, and it had actually pretty good critical acclaim.
I know what we're talking about. I know, but only saying the viewership drop off has been terrible for the show.
Well,
from Netflix.
Palpatine
So let's
started
see.
that. They love the viewership drop off.
Well,
It's
I
their
like
biggest
Forbes,
talking
okay?
point.
I love
It's-
numbers.
It's,
I love
it's like if
Forbes.
this is a
Important
presidential
context.
election, that's the abortion. That's the abortion discussion right there with them. That's
I'm
that's
going
what they
all
use.
day
But
about it.
look at all the dead viewership. They
I
are
want
killing
only to
viewership before it's
respond
even
to what
born.
you
It's
said.
hard data. It's a reflection over the
No,
overall
it's data.
feeling.
How you disseminate the data is another
is
story,
true.
and people spin it always in different ways, especially with the inconsistency and unreliability of the data when it comes to streaming shows.
Going back to the Plagueis thing, I think we just have a fundamental disagreement on whether or not you should be able to tease something in the future if the future is not guaranteed. I just don't
Yeah,
mind
we
it.
do. I don't like being disappointed.
Well, I think that's
wanna
the
be
thing.
Satisfied for once.
We've had this with Lucasfilm a lot, right? And so I think at
disagree.
this point it's just frustrating. It's like, okay, again, well, I'm probably,
wait for
and it's
it.
like it's one of those things like Goldman where it's like I, as a fan, who Plagueis is my favorite Star Wars novel by far. Also, this came in today, and so this might take
focused.
the spot. But my point is, I, as a fan, because of Lucasfilm's track record, I cannot get excited for a potential Plagueis thing because there's a really, really, really high chance we're never going to get it, right? And that's what's frustrating. And that's why I would
Are
be
you
like,
actually
okay,
gonna
it'd be
read
nice if this
the
was
Thrawn
tied into
trilogy?
the story a little bit.
It's just gonna sit on your shelf.
Sit on itself. Bubba.
It came in through Amazon Prime today. I got
think
home from work.
there's-
All right.
I think there's a difference in teasing something that never released, like all these movies and shows that never came out. I think there's a difference between that and having something actually come out and release and teasing a continuation of that story. Besides Solo and people who are frustrated with the books, it just hasn't happened.
They
Yeah, but
did
you know,
with
Pebble
Gallus-
memes like to
Galactus
expand it
Rex
out
or whatever
into
his name is.
grander failure.
I think it's a false equivalency. That's just
In some ways, it is. He's born to be.
It
a
also doesn't
politician,
help that the
though.
show's balls. If the show was pretty good, I'd have been like, oh, that was fun.
I agree. I agree. The show
And
maybe
that-
a little
yeah,
better than
yeah.
balls, but
No,
whatever.
I
didn't
don't
think it was good.
the big
pretty
thing with
ball.
Plagueis for me is I don't like the idea that you have to use something that you have not established at all on your show that is kind of out of left field and truly at its core.
Well,
a
left
member
field is a
varied.
bit much. It's not out of left field. It's
The
in
way they
line with
introduced
what the
him,
show is supposed to be.
they're walking to the ship and then it's just him creeping in the
Okay,
background.
execution
With
is one
no
thing, but it's not out of
context at
left
all.
field. It's not out of left
Plagueis
field.
being in this, yeah, I agree with Flunga. Plagueis being in this is not like it's not necessarily a shock or surprise, right? It's
Right.
the execution where
We
it's
all
like,
kept saying,
what the fuck
when
is
are we
he-
gonna see him?
What's he
We're gonna
doing
see him.
there?
No, it's not when. It was, are we going to see him? Is it Tenebrous or is it Plagueis and everything?
What's
but
that? What's
by
that?
This, but at this point in the show, the questions weren't even around Tenebrous or Plagueis all that much because it was just, is Chimera even really a Sith? Are we going to meet his master?
Man,
Is there other
You
Sith?
asked us after
there
one of the
variants?
episodes. You asked us, "Will we see Plagueis or Tenebrous, and when will we see them?" That was a topic.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so-
yes, because
so-
that was one of the
It was all-
many questions people had for the show. There's countless questions.
Many.
Plagueis only,
and-
yeah, there was many.
Wait for it. We're most likely just because Chimera is kind of getting because the popularity that Kylo Ren was kind of getting when the sequels were coming out. You know what I mean? Don't be surprised if we get something animated or maybe a Tales of that involves this era, and we're gonna get something with Chimera.
I love that.
I'd be okay with
and
the
even
Chimera.
possibly
I would not be
or
surprised, yeah.
probably wouldn't be a book, a comic book.
If it becomes a book, that means we know we're not getting a season 2.
No,
It's
for
like
sure,
they
for
did. They
sure.
recently did
It's
a
a
book
Death
of
Note.
Kira from Solo. That means we're never seeing her.
Oh no, they did a book on Ventress and then they fucking brought her back to life. And
That's
that
different.
Bad
Oh,
bitch.
yeah.
Because they probably
Very,
thought they were
yeah.
never going to do it again because the Clone Wars got canceled,
Right.
and then Dave Filoni got
Yeah.
the money thrown
I'm
at
still
him.
triggered by
Promoted.
that.
Yeah,
I
got
really
promoted.
don't care.
But honestly, that
Yeah.
is an interesting part of like the show that it does introduce the High Republic into like live action and everything. Is that anything you want to see more? I mean, because this kind of dawns a new era that we've been in with the books for a while and the comic books, and now we're doing it in live action. If we go to a season 2, we're staying in the same era, but we have introduced a lot of characters. We've introduced Soul, Yor, Jeki. These are characters that
All
people
dead.
did like. You got Chimera and everything. We already know stuff about Vernestra in the past, but there seems to be more to do with this High Republic era. After seeing this, do you guys want more content based in the High Republic in television or in movies, or is this enough to make you go like, I'm good?
Well, if we get it, Palpatine will be happy because you'll get Vernestra with her purple hair, instead of bald Vernestra.
Cringe.
I mean, it's a mixed bag, right? Are they going to give it the Thrawn treatment? it's like we read these books, we liked it. You and me quite enjoyed them. Are they just going to completely
Very much so.
tell their own new story and forget the books? Oh, forget what you read here. We're gonna do something different now.
Forget the Nile.
Yeah, forget the Nile. Forget the Martian Rowe, who is like one of the best antagonists I've seen in Star Wars in a long time. And yes, it is an interesting era. So if they wanted to do something, and if they, and they wanted to, because there was a lot of interesting characters in those books, and every single one of their names are escaping me now. Avar Chris,
Avar Chris, Elzar Man,
Elzar Man is a really cool one. His was kind of what we saw with Torben, right? Because he went on this, Vanesha did it too, where he kind of went in this exile because he touched on the dark side, and he's like, and he had to like get away because he's like, I need to refocus myself. To go back. So Elzar Man was pretty cool.
Avar Chris,
Stellan Geos,
cuddling.
who I really didn't like Stellan Geos. I just didn't. I don't know what.
Stay focused on your point about this.
But yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting characters, and so yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it. But what's their history been? They take things that they themselves get. We're not talking about legacy characters, from Lucas, right? We're talking about stuff they've created. They give it to us in one format, and then when they bring it to TV shows, they completely change the things we liked about it. And it's like, well, what? Like Olmo says, don't forget the books. They're never canon, even if they are canon. It's like
annoying.
So I don't know. Will I like it? Who the fuck knows? If they stick with what they did in the books, yes. Stay with your own, consistent with your own fucking canon. That's all I'm asking.
Go ahead, tell names.
Well, you usually ask the question again and bring my note. That's okay. I'm gonna split your question into two questions. The first question is, did they justify or did they do this High Republic era justice? And the second question is, do I want to see more of the High Republic? To answer the first question, absolutely not. I thought I'm not gonna get into that because I'm gonna go on a tangent. But the second question, yeah, I would love to see more of the High Republic. I've been begging for years to see new eras in Star Wars, and I am still happy they did and took a chance with the Acolyte despite their failure of it. I still like that it's a new era. Does it really feel like a new era? No, and that's where the execution comes in. I think the ship's designs are different. They look like they're from Meet the Robinsons, but whatever. I would love a High Republic trilogy of movies. I think there's a lot of cool stories with that villain you were talking about, and the characters are cool. There's a lot of really cool design choices and stuff, which I know that you can't really make a whole story off of a design choice, but aesthetics are very, very important when separating eras, and I think the High Republic aesthetic is good. And that's it.
What about you, Goldman? You liking this High Republic era so far?
This show didn't really highlight anything special about the High Republic. You could take this story, place it 20 years before the Phantom Menace, and what changes? The color of the robes the Jedi wear? Like the convenience that Ocean and May and their
Coruscant was pretty confusing.
20 years.
They had to keep telling us it was Coruscant when they showed us the temple.
The point is, it's like when I think of a show like The Mandalorian and the show in the Mandoverse era, they're clearly taking advantage of the lore established in that time. That the Empire is gone, there's still remnants out there, and they're building around that. So the Mandoverse stories are taking advantage of the time period between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. The Acolyte, I haven't read the books, but I know a little bit. It's like, what have they taken advantage of? The fact that there's Jedi, sure. The fact that there's Sith in hiding, yes. But it's like, what else in this show relates to the Acolyte, the universe that the Acolyte built? I'm under the impression, now the stories told in the Acolyte books may be different. I was under the impression that the main marketing power of the High Republic was that this was going to be the Jedi in their golden age. This was before the prequels. This was before they became disillusioned and corrupt or whatever. The Acolyte showed the Jedi at their worst, arguably. The Jedi in the prequels were flawed, but they were never straight up corrupt. They didn't have cover-up jobs that we know of. They might have had one in the Clone Wars. I might be forgetting. But the main point is that the show hasn't really took advantage of the High Republic era.
Did you forget
Jedi?
Did you forget Dooku completely wiping the archives?
Okay, Dooku became a Sith Lord. I'm talking about Jedi being Jedi, covering up things Jedi did. I'm not talking about a Sith covering up something a Jedi did.
Well,
But
and
so
also
anyway.
in the prequels, it's the Mace Windu and Yoda mainly as representations of the Jedi. You see in this show, it's Vernestra, it's Ki-Adi-Mundi, it's Sol, it's
And
Master Indar, it's multiple Jedi.
let's point out what the show was billed as too. This is the tail end of the
Yes.
High Republic, and what events that happen here show us how the Jedi came to be in the prequels. So this was the beginning of the end for the prequel, where they write the prequels. So this is showing us, okay, well, how did they
Yes.
become these characters we know in the
Well-
prequels? Because the events that happened here, these cover-ups, all kept snowballing until we got to the prequels.
Yes. My main point is that the show didn't really like intrigue me to this new era. So did it justify being in the High Republic era? I mean, I like that it was in the past. Would I say I liked that it was in the tail end of this era? I don't really care. I do want to say one more thing. If Lucasfilm does tell more stories, like in the peak of the High Republic era, not at the tail end, I don't have the evidence to support this, but my gut feeling is they would honor those books as opposed to like the Thrawn books. The way I see it is that they really built up the High Republic era like as this era. Like this is a new era. You're getting books, junior novels, comics, everything. Well, with the Thrawn books, I feel like a lot of those books are just like, yeah, we're gonna give you a Thrawn book. You know, Thrawn's coming in the canon, so hopefully you'll read this. It's not tying in.
the fans that are pissed off about Legacy. Let's bring
Yes.
let's bring
Yes.
one of the Legends characters back and give you
So
something. for 'em.
it's a great example. I think those Thrawn books are kind of just appeasing the old fans. Well, I don't think the High Republic books are like that, but again, I
Well, the
get
High
to be proven
Republic
right.
was bold, and honestly, I thought the initial phase one was very good. Me and Lunga liked the first two books. There's a couple books that I've read from that era. They kind of lost me at the end, and they did a phase two where it's even 100 years before that, and that I think turned off a lot of people. But it has a core audience, kind of like how Rebels has like its audience of fans that love Rebels, and so anything associated with it, they're into that just genre. Same thing with freaking High Republic, where you have this core audience that's interested in it, and you could explore things. And like Goldman's saying, like this is something Lucasfilm's establishing on their own. This is something that Lucasfilm's doing that's new and a little risky, and I really do like that. I think this show actually kind of hindered the High Republic era more than helped it and build any interest, because like Goldman's saying of, it didn't really do anything to make you feel like you're in a new era or anything like that. With this show, comparing it to the High Republic is you see people like Avar Kriss and Elzar Mann and Stellian Geos and Loden Greatstorm. Is that his name, Lunga? Our boy? Yeah, love Loden.
Loden,
These-
oh my god, what's going on with him is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it was horrible. But with what they do in that series and in that era is they actually make you care about these Jedi and feel like they're actually trying to do the right thing. And you get that a little bit with the Acolyte, but it's not convincing in a way where you think the Jedi are the good guys. It's one of the issues that I've had with a lot of recent Star Wars projects is Jedi aren't the good guys anymore. And this show doubles down
In
on
High
that in a way
Republic, they do show us a lot that they're really good. in High
Absolutely.
Republic.
There's an entire moment in the first book where all the Jedi across the galaxy are just meditating
Yeah.
on slightly moving a bomb away from like a sun. That's
And
literally
Avar
all it
Kriss
is.
is like the focus. That's her. And
Yes,
the one thing
and she says it's like a
added in
song.
that's a kind of new thing is each Jedi they have a different they each have their own kind of unique power in the Force. It seems like,
Mhm.
and they have something that they have a specialty in. And with Avar Kriss, it was that song, and she seemed to be this focal point that can.
Well, they all
you
view
know.
it differently. Some people view it like
Yeah.
fire, like an ocean. She
Right.
views it like a song and everything like that. It is an interesting take on
Which
Star
plays
Wars, and I'm
on
glad they established
the
this.
witches with the threads. I mean that's what they were
Yeah.
trying to. You don't have to like it, but that's what they were doing.
But introducing Plagueis and the Sith, I think, makes the High Republic era a little bit more interesting. I mean, we could explore more stuff with them, and I want to. But let's read the super chat. We'll move on to season 2.
So this is kind of teasing what Pablo Memes was talking to me about in the Discord.
Imagine if Skeleton Crew, a show no one asked for, ends up being a surprise hit with fans. Who's this from? Does it
No
say?
one asked for
Please
Andor.
Please stand by.
Please
I was
stand
about to
by.
bring up Andor. However, as reported from Bestman Bulletin, Making Star Wars,
here we
and
go.
this comes from another one who has inside to like actual reporter, not just some mumbo jumbo. Yeah, Lucasfilm, they're not too happy with.
The
Skeleton Crew.
context
We've heard
of
a
that
lot
is
of
wrong, though. Hey, the context of that is wrong, though, because the guy he's referencing replied to that. He did a quote tweet, and he was saying that, no, I'm saying that the people who worked on this behind the scenes are unhappy with Skeleton Crew, and that's something we've been hearing.
Well, we
Scoopers
know
have
the
been
production
hearing,
of this
people
has been
online.
pretty rough for the
Yeah,
workers.
yeah, people in the know, everyone. I've heard, for not people who worked on it, but people who've worked with people, that people are very unhappy. Just the treatment and everything and how the show was made apparently was a nightmare. But I don't. We'll see what happens with that. But I think Skeleton Crew is such a nothing show right now to Star Wars fans. It's just another. It's like Bad Batch. It's just to keep them busy. Just put a show
Yeah.
out there just to put a show out there.
And
honestly.
I don't think it's going to disappoint anyone because they'll be like, please stand by.
The expectations
no
are
one
going to be
asked
so
for it.
low. It's like,
Yeah,
Exactly.
we didn't ask for this. What's this?
Well,
Okay,
here's
cool.
the thing, though, guys. We say that, but funny enough, we know basically nothing about this show. It very well could be in a good era or timeline where
well, no,
interesting
I
stuff
mean,
happens.
we know.
Takes place during
we
the time
know
of
it's-
Mandalorian.
it's- Fuck them kids.
I know that, but at what point, right?
Shortly.
Is it after
like,
Ahsoka?
Yeah, I would assume so. Yes.
It doesn't matter.
it's an assumption,
I'm
so-
not into.
Are they
it
going to go to
anyways.
Peridia?
I have
Are
a
we gonna find
feeling.
the Mortis
Yes,
gods
I
there?
have a feeling because it's kind of a lost in space thing. I believe is what we've heard early.
Well, it's just they
rumblings.
get crashed on a mysterious unknown planet or something like that. Yeah.
I think they're going to end up somehow getting whisked to the unknown regions, and they're going to be Pridia. They're gonna run into Ahsoka
They're
and
gonna save Ahsoka and Sabine.
are going to create their own little temple with these kids. That's what's going
Aw.
to happen.
And they're going to defeat the Mortis gods, and they're going to be more important than anyone else was in the Star Wars franchise.
They are talking
'cause it's
about
Dave
casting
Filoni's
for
Balin.
Balin. Yeah, Liev
Yeah.
Schreiber is one of the people, which
I
kind of
want to say, I want
but,
to say
yeah,
real quick. Yeah, the official like description is they get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy, which to me is pretty clear that they're the galaxy that
they're not
Peridia's
in your galaxy, yeah. And so, I mean, what other
Yeah.
galaxy? We've only had one other galaxy ever introduced.
We have two
That was
galaxies in canon now.
now, yes, and the second
my-
one was
my-
just
my-
introduced.
Yeah, my point is
Recently.
to that comment. It's like, I agree with Goldman. Like, no one asked for Andor, but Andor was phenomenal. I always give everything with Star Wars an open-minded chance, and this story could be really cool. We could get something that's really engaging, like the first few seasons of Stranger Things, for all we know. I doubt it. I have high doubts.
And
but,
for
hey.
people who thinks I hate kids, I love Stranger Things. I thought Stranger Things was great, and
For
and
sure.
I like Sweet Tooth. I still recommend watching Sweet Tooth on Netflix. That is what these kids were amazing.
All right, well, back to the Acolyte. To wrap things up, yes or no? Do you guys want a season 2? Longa.
Do I want one based on what they've given me and more of the same? No. But my, masochistic Star Wars fan self, it's like, satisfying or not, I need some resolution to what you've shown me. So give it to me, and you're either going to make me hate it even more, or maybe be, okay, well, this was cool. Would have been better if you did better in season 1, and this would have been even better. So, yeah, whatever. Just keep. I'll bend over. You hit me again.
Problem is yes or no?
I'm gonna split this again. Do I want a spin-off of what the Acolyte set
Oh,
up?
fuck you. Fuck you. No,
Yes.
No. That's not how
But
this
by
works.
different people. Do I really want a season 2 of the Acolyte? I'm not. I wasn't very engaged in the story. I didn't think the main characters were captivating at all. They didn't do a good job of developing them, and so I just don't care. Will I watch a season 2? Absolutely. I'll watch it. I think a season 2 could really glue things together more properly and bring us a more entertaining and engaging story, but I'm not gleeful for a second season.
Golden.
Yes, I'd love a season 2.
Oh, God. Oh,
I was intrigued enough by the premise to where I wouldn't mind seeing more. I'm just at a point with Star Wars where I have my 9 movies. Whatever else they do, if it sucks, it sucks. If it's great, it's great. Like I don't want to say I don't care enough. It's just that I have nothing like in my mind to lose. Like I don't care about. I know you guys care about ratings. Someone here cares about ratings and cares about how the brand is doing. Sure, I'd love for the brand to be doing great, but at the end of the day, I just care if I enjoy these movies and shows or not. So yeah, I would like to see season 2 because I'm intrigued. And even if it's on par with the quality of this show or season 1, I'd probably still enjoy it, honestly.
God, I hate you all so much. I'll give a more outright answer than Lunga or.
Didn't he start
Top
out the beginning
Lunga.
saying, "Did this good episode make me not hate this show?" No, I still hate it. That's what you said.
Me?
Well, just like you,
Yes.
he wants
And Star
he
Wars
wants
only.
punishment and pain.
And in Star Wars only. Before you say your answer, let's all remind the audience that
No,
this is
no,
the
we're gonna
guy.
do this
Hold
again.
on. This is the guy that gave like 4 out of the 8 episodes a banger episode title. So go ahead and answer now.
As I've said before, banger does not equate good. All
Yes,
right?
it does. It's so disingenuous.
No. The Revenge of the Sith is a banger movie. Is it a great movie? No. It's not
Banger
Pulp
doesn't mean
Fiction.
great.
The thing is,
Yeah.
it's taken a life of its own, Goldman. The people in the chat go, "Banger episode 2 of 10."
Yeah.
So I mean,
I don't understand how they get it and y'all don't. The
They're
chat-
mocking
I mean,
you.
the
Only
Star
they're
Wars
mocking you. That's the
admin gets
point.
it.
No,
They don't get it,
no,
they're
you
mocking
don't,
you.
You don't get the joke, all right? You can say banger and it not actually be a banger.
Star Wars
all right?
admin said it unironically. So no, they don't get it.
Fair
I'm
enough.
saying.
But go ahead and
All right.
answer Star Wars only, please.
Finally, let me fucking answer. God damn it. What was the question? Oh, do you want a season 2? Oh yeah, fuck all of you. No, hell no. I don't understand this tolerance for shit. Like Goldman, I hated the fact that you were just like, oh, in my mind I can separate the 9 movies. It's like
I can
at what
tolerate
point does yeah, you can tell. Like, at what point do you guys just like want to stop watering down the franchise? Because
When they
that's
keep
what these
making bad
episodes
movies.
do. But this is as bad, in my opinion. These are shows where it goes from you can be great like Mando and Andor, and then absolute dog. Like, this is CW show quality. And yes, I love Star Wars. Yes, I would watch a season 2. No shit, Sherlock. It's called Star Wars only on the Chatooine Show for a reason, okay? But this was not good, and this does not merit a second season. And it proves that Lucasfilm does not know what they're doing, not only by greenlighting something like this, but then to be like, yeah, let's do more. And for fans, I've seen people on Twitter say, like, oh, this is just as good, if not better. Thank you. I haven't heard that one in a long fucking time. Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is. But these people on Twitter, so someone said, like, oh, it's better than the original 6 movies. You should not be able to
Hey,
drive a car.
get off
or
Twitter.
vote.
Get off Twitter.
Okay, get off YouTube. It's one of the.
No, I'm not the one who's
No,
I'm not the one who's saying
what
there's
we're
people out
saying
there who
is
have ridiculous opinions.
You're picking the most hyperbolically goofy opinion you saw on Twitter as your reason.
No, I'm
Come on.
picking
Yes.
the people that the Acolyte is inviting to press screenings and
Who
to
cares
media
about
events and
press
stuff like that.
screenings?
Okay,
Clearly
I guarantee
Lucasfilm
you
does.
that person
These
you're
are the audience
quoting
that they're
was
going
not invited
for.
to a press screening.
But they were.
It is. I don't think so.
They were. I mean, you can call it what you want. They were. I'm not talking about some random account. I'm talking about like actual influencers in the Star Wars fandom who, whether you guys like to believe it or not, they do have an impact on this shit because clearly Lucasfilm likes them, invites them, and they want praise from them. It is this tolerance of shit that Star Wars fans have been accustomed to now, where it's like, oh, it doesn't matter how bad it is. If I get to go into the press screening or I get more Star Wars, then I'm happy.
These are
It's
like-
sad.
It's not tolerance of shit. That's just people being into their own clout. That's all that is.
I can't believe you're
We've
so influenced by
seen
like
it from
30
certain
people.
we've talked to. It's people that are more interested in their own growth as an influencer than the content, and it's apparent. So that's why I don't take them seriously, because they're an influencer, right? They're influencer first, fan second. So I don't take what they say anymore into account, because you know what it's about. And this just comes from me. Yes, I've said it before 100 times. I don't care. I have self-destructed my channel and my growth so many times over the past 4 years for that reason, that I won't just say, yeah, I won't play along with shit. Okay. But not everyone's like that, especially in this, sphere of influencers.
Yeah, but
being a
that's not my
profession.
overall point. My overall point is this ideology at Lucasfilm right now that, okay, a lot of people don't like this, but this core group of people that we've built a fandom around, of whether it's people who love the High Republic, whether it's people who love Rebels, whether it's people who love the Acolyte. The base of fans continues to grow smaller because the content continues to get worse and worse. So the
Is it
base of
though?
fans that they appeal to gets worse.
They're
Yes,
growing.
it has been getting
this-
worse.
Again, no, it's not, because you don't look. You listen, Mr. Eagles fan. Okay, you don't. And Eagles, by the way, guys, the band, not the sports team. You don't pay. I don't know why this 50-year-old old motherfucker can see what's going on social media more than you. Okay, TikTok is fucking huge. I know you don't use it, you don't look at it, you don't really care, but I don't think you realize how big TikTok is. And if you will see the amount of Star Wars stuff on there, pro Disney Star Wars stuff on there, all the new fans, all the people cosplaying, they're growing a new base and saying fuck people like you, because they're going to just build their own.
Yes,
That's what's
I do
happening.
have a TikTok, and I have seen it. And as someone who's been in the Star Wars social media stuff since like 2014, it doesn't matter about the
Instagram,
TikToks and all that
Instagram.
stuff. The Instagram, it's been Instagram, it's been YouTube, it's been Twitter. I've been around the game for a long time. All right, numbers wise, I've seen, and I've known a lot of Star Wars YouTubers who have said and reiterated stuff that I have said in the past of, yeah, I'm not into Star Wars anymore. People are leaving. Yes, it might not be the people
And
they
people are
want to stick
joining.
around, but the amount of people joining is
Only.
not equaling the amount of people leaving.
What's your definition of leaving?
YouTube
Tuning out.
is dominated
Bro-
by people that hate Disney. There's very few Disney supporters on YouTube.
That's very true. Yeah,
Okay.
that's very true.
But
So you can't use
tuning
YouTube
out.
as a metric. Go
Yeah, I
ahead,
agree.
Goldman.
You said tuning. You said leaving means tuning out. Are you tuning out? Only
No, but I'm an exception to the rule.
The thing is, like, I'm sure there are lots of people out there that aren't as invested as they were in 2015. Absolutely. I think most of the people who saw The Force Awakens, no, actually not The Force Awakens, I would say a large portion of Star Wars fans are still watching these shows. There's people at my work, they're just casual fans. They watch the shows. They're like, okay, yeah, I like this. Like, I have a friend who watched all the shows, saw the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte, didn't really like it. I'm sure he'll watch Skeleton Crew and he'll watch the rest. There's just a lot of, most people out there, most of the viewership of these Star Wars shows are just people who have Disney Plus, kind of like Star Wars, and will just turn it on, watch it, and enjoy it.
I disagree. I feel like something like, especially like Bad Batch or even Andor, that's
Bad
something
Batch
where
is
it's just
so
the core
different.
fans.
Rohit
just the
keeps
core
bringing
Andor
this
is not
up.
the core
He's
fans.
talking about the ratings. What are ratings? Listen, again, I can't stress this enough, and I've said it multiple times. Even though Pelton tries and only will bring up drop offs in viewership, this is not the 1990s where you had the Nielsen ratings, okay, which still were actually not as dependable as people think they were. Streaming shows, there is no ratings. There's numbers people throw out to try to decipher a rating, but there is no rating. Why? Because Disney, and most of them don't. Disney does not release numbers. They might release numbers that benefit them. They'll say things how with the Ahsoka, how many views it had. A views is just clicking on it. That doesn't mean you watched the whole series. There is no ratings, and streaming companies do this by design, and it's not just Disney. This is almost across the board. They only talk about things when they want to talk about things, and they only talk about things in the good light. They don't have ratings. Like Nielsen was an independent company. The studios had no control over what the Nielsen ratings were. They just put a box in one out of every 10,000 homes or whatever the hell it was back in the days. So there is no such thing as ratings. There's a bunch of companies trying to make something look like ratings, but like we've discussed many times, the Impelmans had to say, yeah, but most of these aren't really dependable because we don't know. So
They're not dependable,
if
but they
anyone-
do paint a picture.
again, what did I say? They paint a picture based on your interpretation of it. They don't paint an accurate picture. They are random numbers of random bits that do not signify a rating.
I
They
can't
don't.
buy that. I can't.
Wonderfully
I-
said.
You don't
I-
have to,
I-
but they don't.
I understand the argument, but I can't buy that. Like people
This-
like
there's been-
Variety, Forbes,
there
and
has
all
been
this stuff are going
stories-
to reference this stuff, bring this stuff up, and just be like, "Oh, but it means
Yeah, they
literally
gotta
nothing."
get their
It
they
means
gotta get their
literally nothing.
10,000 words in.
Okay,
What are you,
but something like
serious?
Samba TV, the stuff like they even though their pool of what they're getting is small, the numbers do mean at least. You can't say they literally mean nothing at all. That's
I didn't say
insane.
I didn't say that. I never. Those words did not escape my mouth.
I know, but,
I said
but
there
that is what
is
you're mounting
no.
it to.
I said there is no rating. You can't say what
Yeah.
were the ratings of the show because there are no ratings. You can put these different numbers together and try to say, well, this is what the rating is. It's not. It's just not. It's you extrapolating numbers, trying to make sense of it, and this is what I'm seeing. And if you
Okay,
read
but
different
if you-
populations, just like statistics, they'll all give you their own view on it.
Mhm.
There is no
Like-
rating, and again, there have been articles and articles and articles done about this. Not Star Wars, just about streaming services in general and how disingenuous they are because there is no ratings for their shows. This
Preach to the
is
choir.
been a major story in streaming for years now. So I'm not like just making shit up off the top of my head or pulling it out my ass. This is a thing that's consistent with streaming services. And
Can I ask
Disney's
you a
not
question,
exempt from
Lunga?
that.
And this isn't a gotcha question. This is a genuine question because I want your actual answer on this. Could you not take a pool of data and compare it to the same source of the data weeks later? So, for instance, can you not see the minutes, which they can average viewership by those minutes, and then with the same rating company, whatever it is, then for the next 3 episodes, say, okay, there was a big drop off within that set
Sure.
data, which
Sure.
would mean overall
Sure,
there
you
was a
can.
drop off. Right.
Hold on. You can. If it was back in the day of TV shows where it aired once and you didn't see it again. But in the days of streaming, I can't tell you how many shows I watched. Like there's 6 seasons. I watched 1 season of it and then I came back a year later to watch it. That's
Yeah,
why
I
it's
don't doubt that
unreliable.
exists. Yeah.
That's why it's
Yeah.
unreliable.
That's a real.
That's
thing,
just the
of course.
initial reaction. It could literally be, and you can't say no other way or any other way. You can lose people saying, "Yeah, fuck this. I got better things to do right now. I'll pick this up some other time," and they'll watch it later. So that's why a drop off doesn't necessarily mean anything. It means something, right? If it was super popular, there'd be probably very little drop off. So the only thing it indicates is it's not a hit. It doesn't mean it's a bomb.
And
Do you see what I'm saying? It depends on how you interpret it. Just like all the gun violence, all the statistics people pull out with crime, where depending on who's presenting the same statistics, they all draw their own conclusions from it. It depends how you spin it.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And it's like with the minutes watched, it's like the Nielsen ratings. Like they come out when there's 4 episodes, and the Acolyte's already as short as it is. You think that's going to compare to a recently released show of something on Netflix that has like a 20-episode season?
Hold on a second.
No, it's not going to compare.
I said compare within its own source of data, not
Or
outside shows.
Netflix-
Compare it to House of the Dragon or something.
That's bingeable. A lot of stuff on Netflix you can literally watch the whole season all at
Yeah,
once.
but even then, it's like I bet you if Disney Plus released like the total view count of the first episode of The Mandalorian, I bet you like 95% of the views came from after like 3 months of the episode airing. That matters.
There's
there was
very
a-
few. I will literally say I think the only thing right now on streaming that's must see viewing on the night of is House of the Dragon. I
agree.
really believe that is the only show that people like get their popcorn and Sunday night, like me and my wife do every
Yeah, no,
Sunday
you're
night.
right,
We
you're
could watch it whenever we want. Okay, but boom, The Boys. I love The Boys, but what I tell you only, me and her watch it on Thursdays because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
I
day
know,
we
but-
have free and we
but-
watch it together.
But
There's
but
lots
to
of
tie
people
this
that
all
do
back
that
into
shit.
Star Wars and everything, we talked about the ratings and everything. That's the problem with the brand at the moment is that the last time we had that, everyone's going to sit down and we're going to watch the show as like an audience, not just as a family, but as an actual audience of people. Was the Mandalorian? You don't get that with the Acolyte. You haven't gotten that
disagree.
with a lot of recent Star Wars shows. You can just
Obi-Wan
screw
had
all you
it.
want. It's yeah, Obi-Wan had it for a minute for sure. Yeah,
Ahsoka had it for a few episodes.
And
Yeah,
it's bringing
up
up
to
merch
episode 5.
sales. He brings up merch sales, and everyone wants to point to that like it's 1980s still, and it's Kenner with the toys, right? Because that's how Lucas made his fortune, right? It was the toys that allowed him to create ILM and all this other shit. Okay, but here's the thing: you were there only
I remember
at Disney. That shit flies off the fucking shelves.
Mando merch. Yeah, hell yeah.
Just everything. The lightsabers, which are crappy lightsabers, man. People are spending
Yeah.
fucking hundreds of dollars on these things for the experience, just to sit there and build them. I mean, the merch at Disney, the Galaxy's Edge is not dying. Okay,
It's not doing
hotel
great.
did. The Disney parks aren't doing great because of Chapek. They're trying to fix that. The whole entrance to the park is dropped off.
It's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on over there right now. It's getting
Right. But again, but let this is the whole data thing. Let's not extrapolate the park in general being down to. It's not like the whole park is thriving and no one's going to Galaxy's Edge. That's not what's happening. It's the parks are just down, but they still sell a lot of shit there, dude. Like I said, my boss at my work just came back from Disney, bought 2 lightsabers, bought an Obi-Wan statue, and I mean, there's a lot, and he's Gen X. I mean, we're literally like 3 months apart, I think, in age. Stuff at Disney sells. You can't go to Walmart and look at your toy section. If you go to any Target, Walmart nowadays, the toy sections in general are garbage. It's I mean, there's literally, you go to Target, there's literally an entire shelf of fucking, how many kids are buying wrestling figures? Can't tell you how many, I mean, wrestling's still huge, but there's tons of wrestling figures there all the fucking time. Okay? Toys aren't what they used to be, guys. Kids, they're on
But
5 years old. They got one of
something,
these,
though.
man.
The
Okay, they're on here
Grogu
playing
merch is
fucking
selling out
games.
for a
or
reason.
one of these. Yeah.
And who's buying Grogu? Women. 30-year-old women are buying Grogu. Okay?
Men
Why?
are buying them too.
For the women.
I know a girl that bought a
I have
Grogu
one,
shirt
but
and
guess
she
what
hadn't
it-
seen The Mandalorian.
There you go.
Just to be excited. I have my Grogu, right? Okay.
I have.
You know how much my wife has? 3.
Huh.
You think she gives a fuck about Star Wars?
No, but it just shows you how
Okay.
that resonates with the culture, brother. It just expands out there. Everybody knows.
Right,
who
but that
Grogu
was
is.
a phenomenon. Okay,
That's
it
what
wasn't
I'm
a
saying.
Star Wars thing. You see, that's the point. So we can't count that as that was a phenomenon. Like little
The
kids
phenomenon that came from
buying the
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars, the little kids that bought Star Wars figures in the 80s. These were kids that loved Star Wars, man. It was just Star Wars was just so big that all these kids wanted the toys. Nowadays, kids are just not like that with toys, dude. They're just not. They really don't. Before, when I was a kid, you had to hide the fact that you were playing with toys when you were 12, 13 in junior high. Okay. Nowadays, kids, they're done playing with toys by the time they're fucking in kindergarten. They go in the first grade, man. They're talking about video games and on their phones, and they're not Roblox. That's what the toys are.
All right. Before we go on another tangent, because I will continue to get deep into this. You guys want to get into the season 2 predictions, or you just guys want to go straight into like the series ratings?
Series ratings.
No, I'm not going. I'm not
Yeah.
doing any predictions.
Yeah, but there's not much I want to go off of. So quickly, and I insist quickly, so we can wrap this motherfucker up. Season 1 series rating, because it's technically season 1, maybe a season 2, but right now it's the only part of the series that we're getting. We might not get a season 2. What is your rating for this Acolyte? As long as we're writing it down, he's gonna roll the dice to see what it's gonna be.
I mean, I could roll my D&D dice. That's a
It's a
D20 though.
chance.
I can't do 0. I can't do 0 to 20. But
wish I had
we'll
a
do
forward.
we'll do like the Olympic scorers. Okay.
Now, what does a 4 mean to you, Lunga? Describe that
Oh,
in words.
God.
That mixes the opening ones, which I gave 8s for 1 and 2, or 7 and 8s or whatever, and then there was a few 6s mixed in there, and then there was 1s, 2s, and 3s. So it's just it's the average in my brain. It all averages out to about a 4, which kind of goes in line with how I felt about the series by the time I was done watching it.
Being genuine here, it gets a 3 out of 10 for me, and only gets a few points because there are things in there that I like, but they unfortunately do not bring much substance to the story and character development that this show desperately needed. The lightsaber fights were really fun. The choreography overall was really good. The acting was really damn good. The Sith had my attention. They just didn't do anything with it that should have done. And so because of that, it gets a 3 out of 10, because really, other than those things, and I can go on some more things, it really doesn't have much merit. The show really, really doesn't have, it doesn't have much strong writing at all. So I see no reason why it should go above a 3 out of 10.
I would give it a very generous 5 out of 10. In preparation for our Gold Band video making, I rewatched the entire series. and I actually enjoyed it a little bit. When I put on my professor hat, all the errors are still there, but I kind of enjoyed it. So I know we had last time I was on, or many times ago, I kind of gave definitions for my ratings. Changed slightly. For me, a 5 means just below mediocre. And mind you, mediocre does not mean terrible. It means, by definition, of only moderate quality. So I would say it is slightly below mediocre. I like The Acolyte better than Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian Season 3.
Ugh.
Maybe Ahsoka. Probably not. So yeah, I give it a 5. Just below mediocre.
Well, while this show did have some banger moments that I love to remember, it was not a banger series. I think me and Lunga, we've had some disagreements in the past, especially of recent. I feel like our relationship has strayed a little bit. I hate him for disliking the Eagles and saying that they're not a good band. And
Fuck the
he also
Eagles
kinda
and fuck Hall & Oates.
Yeah, and that one really, Chatooine might not survive after that. That's my fucking band. Yeah, this is a 4 out of 10. I don't want to see anything that comes after this. 4 out of 10 to me just means that, yeah, I see what you were trying to do, but you really just didn't know what you were doing either. There are moments to be enjoyed, some performances that are good, but to me, like something like a 4 out of 10 just shows like you don't have it, and this show just doesn't have it. Amanda Sternberg, whatever, not a good actress, not a good lead for this series. The guy who plays Skymir, solid, but you're more interesting than the lead of the series, and I know you're a villain, so that's kind of the normal thing, but I should at least like the lead of my series. Vernestra, horrible. Nepotism, having your wife be a Jedi Master and everything. Like, it's so many things about the show and the series have just irked me to the point where it's like, I don't want a season 2, and I can't find, a lot of these things, even if they're bad, like the Bad Batch, or I didn't really like Rebels, honestly. I didn't like Book of Boba Fett. I didn't like Obi-Wan Kenobi. But you know what I can give them credit for? They were at least a little fun. I had some fun moments. It was kind of nice watching them. I don't have that feeling with The Acolyte. There was nothing fun about this. It was just kind of like a chore to get through, which Bad Batch and Book of Boba Fett eventually became. But even then, at the ending of season 1 of Book of Boba Fett, it was still fun seeing him team up with Mando. There's still moments of like, oh, it's kind of, I didn't have a lot of that in The Acolyte. So for me, it's overall 4 out of 10. And I think that means, like, is that our series average for all 4 of us combined with it?
4.
Because 3,
3,
5,
4,
and
4,
2
4,
4s.
5.
All right,
So-
so The Acolyte has officially been
Banger
rated
show.
a 4 out of 10. Banger. 4 out of 10.
And I really think it's because we expected more from it. And
We did.
By expected
I
more,
didn't.
I'm not saying the whole. No, you know what I mean by expected more. That they would did better with writing and structure. That's what we're talking about. Expecting more, not necessarily our expectations. Like, oh, we're gonna see Plagueis is gonna get into this deep. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about.
I thought a writer's room meant a writer's room.
That unfortunately, we all fall victim to it as a recipe for disaster when you do that. When you start building your own headcanon of what the show is going to be before you see it, and it's not that, you just literally wrote a self-fulfilling prophecy of hating it before it even gets there. So yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, I expected Leslie Headland with what she has done in the past for other shows, and I do think she's a good director and a good writer. She's done some good stuff. I expected better with this show. I expected better with the premise. I expected better with what they were showing us in episode 1 and 2. Okay? That's what is so disappointing about this. And don't tell me just because you went back and watched it that you kind of enjoyed it and you gave it a mediocre, and then tell me it wasn't
Below
disappointing.
mediocre.
Mediocre's disappointing, man.
Yeah,
wasn't
mediocre's
disappointed.
mediocre.
It's disappointing.
Disappointing
Like
compared
I said
to
earlier,
what?
tolerance of crap. It's just, I
disappointing
expect
compared to
Star Wars
what?
to be
Disappointing to
bad.
what I
Let's
compare
see.
to be a good show.
Compared
yes.
to Mando season 1 and 2 and Andor?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yes. Again, disappointing. You have to have disappointing is only
In a
relative
whole new
towards your
era where they
expectations.
really couldn't fuck up much if they didn't want to, because it's a whole new era, no legacy characters.
Sure.
And you fucked it
we're
up.
debating semantics here, but I have a question for you,
That
and
is
it's quick. Of the major Disney Star Wars projects, would you say the Acolyte is your least favorite one?
No. Book of Bob still holds that record.
Well, I asked only because the way he was describing it is he had fun
Oh.
with the other things he hated. So I was
So
curious.
when we're talking about the Disney Stars projects, am I allowed to include the movies, or would you like me only
Yes,
to
the
reference?
five movies, the live action shows, and the major animated shows, not like
Oh,
Visions or
Last
Tales of
Jedi
the
is
Jedi.
definitely like the
Last
one
Jedi?
that still upsets me the most. But I think the main difference is because it is a legacy thing, and it is like to me, it's more of a okay, like how could you have screwed this up? There was a natural.
Well, the consequences are way heavier for messing up the
Yes.
Last
Okay,
Jedi
well,
than
yes,
messing up
yeah.
something like the
That's
Acolyte.
all I wanted.
personal
Yeah.
impact. Yeah,
Literally,
Acolyte's different.
the one thing, Luke Skywalker, that is the definition of Star Wars. That character is the definition of Star Wars. So it's
and to
going to
Goldman's
be
point-
controversial.
And to Goldman's point about the disappointment with the Acolyte, I think it would not have been. I actually think what they did was good for me because it lessened my disappointment because they didn't cover the Sith. If they had covered the Sith like I initially thought and it was this bad, I think I would be almost, if not more, upset than the Last Jedi because as I'm the biggest Sith fan out of everybody here.
That's a
I
really
love-
interesting point, though. We may have dodged a bullet with the fact that they
Wait,
really didn't cover the Sith.
and that's one of the reasons why I say I don't want a
So
season
Plagueis.
2. It's like, look, I've already seen what you've done. I really don't want you to touch something
But then
like Plagueis
season
that I really
2
do love.
comes, and they
However
remake the Darth
many-
Plagueis
No.
novel.
Don't say you don't want them touching anything else. If she's going to touch anything, let it just be this. Please don't touch anything else.
No,
Okay?
don't
like,
even bother.
Like someone mentioned Ryan Johnson's trilogy, and we've been, you were the one hanging on to that forever. Only like it's gonna happen. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. And I was saying no, it's not. I still don't think it's gonna happen. But I got to be honest with you. I've said
gonna
this hundreds of times. As much as the Last Jedi, I'm right there with you. Is like the most disappointing thing of all Disney stuff for me. Ryan Johnson is a good fucking director. Okay,
Mhm.
he is a good director, and
Yeah,
if he
right.
had his own project set in an era kind of like this Acolyte thing where he doesn't touch legacy characters, he doesn't have to worry subvert expectations of what Luke Skywalker would act like and all this other bullshit. Okay, I think he could make a what's that word again? Certified banger of a trilogy. Okay, if he did. So yeah, there's room for this. So yes, Leslie Headland's going to do anything with Star Wars. Don't make her. Don't let her become Filoni's favorite where he puts her on everything. Just keep her in this section of the universe.
If
Just
they
leave her
had
there.
gotten Ryan Johnson to do the Acolyte, it would have been a lot better of a show, no doubt.
Well, of course, without a doubt.
naturally.
Yeah, because Ryan. Well, I was about to say because Ryan Johnson's a good TV show, but he fucking literally did Glass Onion for Netflix. So, I mean,
Lovely. Well, before we close out the show, give everybody a shout out who's a channel member that we love to member. Grievous Reborn, Tom, Katie Miller, Gus Newman, Leor, and my boy and your boy, that cloney boy.
is that
And
all
make
of them?
sure
It
you
feels like you're shortchanging a few. I think don't we have like how many?
think I
did you
got
name?
everybody.
thought-
He named 6 people.
Did you? 60? Okay.
Yeah, I think
then
I
he
were
said it
like
so
6
fast,
or
I missed it.
7.
But yeah, and thank you to all the
Sorry.
super chatters, by the way. The super chatters, shout out to you guys. You guys have been doing a lot the last few episodes, and we do appreciate it.
And at the moment, the future of the show is, it's not like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen, but we don't know just because of the lack of Star Wars and everything. So at the moment, the plan is we're going to come back. Me and Lunga are going to talk about The Boys Season 4 next Wednesday night. And then the week after that, we're going to come back and talk about the House of the Dragon Season 2. After that, we might have a little bit of a break just so we can all kind of take some time off. We know, love having you guys on here every Wednesday night, but it'd be good for everybody to get a break. We'll come back,
Yeah.
talk about some specific Star Wars topics, and then kind of see what's going on going forward. But yeah, the right now the future of the Chatooine Show is just a little dry. Want to know why? Because Star Wars is dry. But that's okay because we had a good run with the Acolyte. We're gonna come back with Skeleton Crew. We're gonna come back with some Andor
Rephrase
Season
that.
2
I don't like
next
the
year.
sound of that. Not the future of the Chatooine Show. The future of our programming, not the show.
future
The show's still
programming
gonna
for
be
the next at least 4
Right,
months,
right,
maybe
right.
3. It's just gonna be a little but we're gonna find good content for you guys to talk about. And during the meantime, we're also gonna upgrade the show. We're gonna have some team meetings and talk about what we should do going forward. So
Yeah, no, we
thank you.
did say we are going to talk about. We said we're going to talk.
yeah,
about
we'll talk about
House of
House of Dragon. We'll talk about the boys. We might cover
Right.
Rings of Power, but that's gonna be like a commitment of hate watching, honestly. So me and Lunga gotta test our stomachs and see if we really want to do that. Then we can talk about Fallout maybe, but that already passed. It's you
been a
gotta
while.
find something that We got to find something we really want to talk about. So I do think we'll come back and do like a ranking of all the live action Star Wars shows. I think that'll be a good, interesting topic. And like Palpatine's wants us to talk about like Star Wars in the movie theaters and returning to the movie theaters and all that stuff. So there's topics that we need to do, but it's not enough to cover the dry spell Star Wars is going to have. So give us a little patience, guys. Yeah, no, Ewoks and droids. That's a Chatooine Plus thing. All right, that's going to be on Chatooine Plus. And we would
a
do
lot
a
of
review.
money to digest that.
Yeah, and
Members
and we're gonna have
only.
to do, yeah, members only. Yeah, no, that's a Chatooine Plus thing. We'll even do an audio commentary for that bad boy when that time comes. God help us all.
That's an idea.
Thank you.
We should do that for members. Let's do an audio commentary.
No, yeah,
on
that
Ewoks and droids.
Chatooine Plus. Yeah, Chatooine Plus is going to have its own little awful
Chatooine
string of
Science Theater
content.
3000.
You can be Lunga the science guy or the Star Wars guy. And Palpatine's, I guess you'll do a read along with all your new books that you're buying. even though I've read this
I'm
shit
going to
10
get some
years
break
ago.
from these hooligans at the Chatooine
He
show.
would
I'm
he would
gonna
would
take the
actually
time to read.
have to he would actually have to read them.
I'm gonna have to read a book,
Great,
guys.
great. And then
Big
you can
progress for
do
me.
the book reviews that we're going to be doing on Chatooine Plus as well. And spoiler
Honestly, an
alert,
Heir
we're
to the
getting
Empire
Chatooine
trilogy
Plus.
would be a really cool idea.
It's overrated.
Yeah.
Give me like a whole year to read
Oh,
these.
shut
I'm
up,
slow.
shut up, Goldman. What do you mean
It
it's
is overrated. It's still good, but it's overrated.
It's a great series. Yeah, it's not like the best thing. I think the Bane trilogy is better. But anyway, we got to get the fuck out of here. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Chatooine Show. If you stuck around this long, please leave a like. Tune in next week. We'll talk about The Boys Season 4. If you love us, we love you. You better remember us. And for one last time, before we go, the power of one, the power of two, the power,
Power
of
of
many.
many.